bullet ant. This sting is so painful, scientists had to invent a pain scale. And this insect sits right at number 1. Meet the bullet ant, a deceptively ordinary-looking ant that lives in the rainforests of Central and South America. It's not giant like a sci-fi monster, but big enough to notice, about the size of a peanut. And yet this little creature has earned a reputation as the holder of the world's most painful sting. You read that right, not a bite, a sting. Here's why it's so infamous. Its venom contains a special chemical called ponoractitoxin, which sounds like the name of a villain in a video game, but is way more horrifying in real life. What it does is basically hijack your nerves and lock them in the on position. Imagine every pain signal your brain can process, firing all at once, non-stop for hours. That's what a bullet ant sting feels like. Some people describe it as being shot, which is where it gets the name bullet ant. Others say it's like having hot coals pressed against your skin, or like someone hammered a rusty nail straight through your foot and then left it there while it burned. And here's the kicker. The pain doesn't go away after a few minutes. It can last for 12 to 24 hours. An entire day of feeling like your hand is on fire from the inside out. And if that sounds like a nightmare, wait until you hear this. There are tribes in the Amazon who use bullet ants as part of a coming-of-age ritual. The boys of the Sadere Mawe tribe have to slip their hands into gloves woven with dozens of bullet ants. They have to keep the gloves on until the elders say it's enough, usually several minutes, while the ants sting them over and over. Their hands swell, twitch, and go numb, and the pain can knock them unconscious, and then they have to do it again, multiple times, over months. Only then are they considered men. Honestly, I think I'd just stay a kid forever. What's wild is that despite how excruciating this is, bullet ants aren't out to get you. They're not aggressive. They just defend their nest with the strongest weapon they have. Step too close and you'll meet that weapon personally. But leave them alone and they'll leave you alone. So yes, the bullet ant is basically nature's way of saying keep your distance. But just when you think you found the ultimate pain machine, there is another insect that says, "Oh, you thought that was bad. Watch this." Let's meet the tarantula hawk wasp, a flying nightmare with a sting so powerful it can make a grown adult collapse where they stand. Tarantula hawk wasp. Imagine the worst Charlie horse you've ever had. Now imagine it in your arm all at once for 5 solid minutes. That's what getting stung by a tarantula hawk wasp feels like. This is not your average backyard wasp. The tarantula hawk is a massive, shiny, metallic blue wasp with bright orange wings, and it looks like it belongs in a superhero movie. They're found in deserts and grasslands from the Americas to Asia, and they're surprisingly chill until you bother them. And trust me, you do not want to bother them. This insect ranks near the very top of the Schmidt Pain Index.
That's basically the Olympics of insect stings, where scientists actually let themselves get stung by different creatures and then wrote down what it felt like. When Justin Schmidt, the guy who made the index, got stung by a tarantula hawk, he called it blinding, fierce, shockingly electric pain. In other words, it hurts so badly you can't do anything except scream. But here's the strange part. The pain is extremely intense, but mercifully short. Usually it only lasts about 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes, they feel like 5 hours. People say the sting is so overwhelming that you literally can't think. All you can do is drop to the ground, writhe around, and wait for the pain to pass. If you're ever stung, Schmidt has one piece of advice. Just lie down and scream, because running around will only get you hurt. And why is this wasp called a tarantula hawk, anyway? Because its entire life is based around hunting tarantulas. The female finds a tarantula, fights it, and stings it, paralyzing the spider, but not killing it. Then she drags the spider back to her burrow, lays a single egg on it, and when the larva hatches, it eats the tarantula alive. Slowly, from the inside. So yeah, this insect is hardcore. But here's the good news. Tarantula hawks aren't aggressive toward humans. They won't chase you, they don't attack for fun, and they only sting if they're seriously provoked, like if you try to grab one or accidentally step on it. So if you see one flying around, just admire it from a safe distance. Think of it as a flying jewel of doom that you absolutely don't want to touch.
Warrior wasp. If there was an Olympic event for painful insect stings, the warrior wasp would be standing on the podium right next to the bullet ant. This insect looks like a wasp on steroids, big, glossy, and mean-looking, and trust me, it has the attitude to match. You'll find them mostly in Central and South America, hanging around tree branches and building these scary-looking paper nests that look like mini footballs. And if you get too close to one of those nests, you might end up regretting every decision that led you there. The sting of a warrior wasp is legendary. People who've experienced it say it's not just pain, it's pain with a performance. The venom doesn't just make you go ouch, it actually causes your muscles to spasm uncontrollably. Imagine being in so much pain that your body literally starts moving on its own. That's why some locals call it the one that makes you dance. And just to add insult to injury, the agony doesn't fade quickly. You might still be sore and throbbing hours later. Entomologist Justin Schmidt, yes, the guy who basically made a career out of getting stung by every nasty insect on the planet, gave this wasp's sting a spot right at the top of his pain index. He described it as torture. You are chained in the flow of an active volcano. Why did I start this list? And keep in mind, this is a man who likes stings enough to rank them, so if he says it's brutal, you know it's the real deal. Here's the scary part. Warrior wasps don't sting just once. They will hit you again and again if they feel threatened, and they usually attack in groups. One sting is bad enough, but multiple? Yeah, you're probably going to wish you could turn back time about 10 seconds and walk the other direction. Victims report a burning, electric shock sensation that makes your whole limb feel like it's on fire. The nests are also pretty intimidating. If you mess with one, the wasps will fan their wings in unison to make a rattling sound, like a bug version of a rattlesnake warning. That's your cue to leave immediately, because the next thing you'll hear is nothing except your own screaming. Thankfully, unless you're climbing around the forests of Central and South America, you probably won't run into one of these flying nightmares. But if you do, now you know these guys aren't called warrior wasps for nothing. They come armed, they come in numbers, and they don't play around. Consider yourself warned. Velvet ant. Okay, this next one has the most misleading name ever. The velvet ant isn't an ant at all. It's a wasp, a very fuzzy, very angry wasp that has earned the nickname cow killer. Yep, that's right, cow killer. Now, does it actually kill cows? No. But its sting hurt so much that early farmers swore it felt like it could drop a cow to its knees. That's the level of pain we're talking about here. Velvet ants are actually kind of cute from a distance. They're covered in bright red or orange hairs that make them look like tiny plush toys running around in the grass. But that adorable little fur coat is actually nature's way of saying, "Touch me, and you will regret it." Those bright colors are a warning. This insect does not mess around. When a velvet ant stings, it's not just a quick zap of pain. The sting lingers for hours. People who've been stung say it's like a burning needle that just keeps hurting and hurting long after the insect has walked away. The venom is designed to make predators remember the lesson permanently. You can ice it, you can try to ignore it, but that fire in your skin feeling will be your companion for the rest of the afternoon. Here's the wild thing about velvet ants. The females don't have wings, so they just run around on the ground, looking like ants. And if you accidentally step on one barefoot or grab one by mistake, you're going to find out exactly why they have such a scary reputation. The males can fly, but they don't sting. Only the wingless females have that venom-loaded stinger. And they're tough little creatures, too. Velvet ants have insanely strong exoskeletons, making them very hard to squish. They also squeak, yes, squeak, when threatened, which is one of the weirdest defense mechanisms ever. Imagine picking up a bug and it just starts squealing at you like a dog toy before stinging you. Not a great day. Despite the horror stories, velvet ants aren't aggressive. They're not out there hunting humans. They're solitary insects just going about their day looking for places to lay their eggs. But if you grab one or step on one, they will let you know you made a mistake, and you will not forget that lesson anytime soon. So next time you see a fuzzy little red ant in the grass, don't let its cute looks fool you. This is one of nature's most painful practical jokes. Soft and fuzzy on the outside, total nightmare on the inside. Respect the velvet ant, or spend the next few hours wishing you had.
Harvester ant venom. You know those tiny ants you sometimes see marching in neat little lines? Now, imagine one of them being armed with a sting so bad it feels like your skin just got zapped with fire. That's the harvester ant. These little guys look pretty harmless at first, They're small, reddish ants you'll find in dry, sandy areas, often near their neat little crater-shaped nests. But if you step too close or accidentally mess with their home, they'll come out swinging. And by swinging, I mean stinging. Here's the thing about harvester ants. Their venom isn't just painful. It's actually considered one of the most toxic insect venoms on the planet, drop for drop. The venom is neurotoxic, which is a fancy way of saying it goes straight for your nerves. When they sting, it feels sharp at first, like a pinprick, but then the burning spreads and just keeps building. It's not over in a second like a bee sting. It sticks around, throbbing and pulsing, reminding you that you made a very bad life choice. What makes it even worse is that harvester ants don't sting just once. Nope, they like to hang on and sting repeatedly, injecting more venom each time. So if one manages to crawl up your shoe or under your sock, you might get a few bonus stings before you can shake it off. People who've been stung say the pain can last for hours, with the spot swelling, turning red, and feeling like it's on fire. And just to make this story more intense, harvester ants are super defensive of their colonies. If they think you're a threat, they don't just attack randomly, they coordinate. Imagine dozens of little ants deciding at the same time that you are public enemy number one. Suddenly, your ankle feels like it's under siege, and you're dancing around trying to brush them off while they hang on for dear life. It's a recipe for pure chaos. Now, here's a bit of weird trivia. Scientists actually study harvester ant venom because it's so potent. Some researchers have used it to understand pain responses in the nervous system, since it hits so fast and so hard. Basically, this tiny ant is helping science figure out why pain feels the way it does. Though I don't recommend volunteering as a test subject. So yeah, harvester ants may not look like much, but they're packing one of nature's nastiest chemical weapons. If you're hiking in desert or scrubland areas and see those tiny little ant hills, maybe give them some space. Your foot and your nervous system will thank you.
Jack Jumper Ant. Ah, Australia, the land where even the ants are out to get you. Meet the Jack Jumper Ant, a little black and orange jumping nightmare that looks like a regular ant until it springs into the air and stings you like it's got a personal grudge. These ants are found all over southern Australia, especially in Tasmania, and they get their name because they actually jump. Yes, jump. Imagine walking through the bush and suddenly seeing ants leaping at you. That's nightmare fuel right there. The jackjumper sting is no joke. People describe it as a sharp, stabbing pain that feels like getting stuck with a red-hot needle. The venom is designed to shut down small prey quickly, but when it hits a human, it sends pain shooting through the area, often followed by swelling and redness. You might think, okay, that sounds like any other nasty ant sting. But here's the thing. Jackjumper venom is also one of the most common causes of severe allergic reactions, anaphylaxis, in Australia. That means a sting can actually be life-threatening for some people. The numbers are kind of wild. In some parts of Tasmania, more people end up in the hospital each year because of jackjumper stings than because of bee stings. And we're not just talking about a rash or a little swelling. Severe cases involve difficulty breathing, dizziness, collapsing, basically your body going into full alarm mode. That's why some Australians actually carry EpiPens just in case they cross paths with these ants. And they're not shy. Jackjumpers are aggressive little hunters. They'll go after spiders, caterpillars, and pretty much anything smaller than them. And if you get too close to their nest, they won't hesitate to turn that aggression on you. They don't just sting and run either. Like harvester ants, they can sting multiple times in a row, injecting more venom each time. So if one gets you, you might feel that pain building with each hit. Here's the strange part. Scientists have actually developed a special immunotherapy treatment for people who were dangerously allergic to jackjumper venom. It works kind of like a vaccine, slowly getting your immune system used to the venom so it doesn't go into panic mode if you get stung. It's one of the few insect-specific venom immunotherapies in the world, proof that these little guys have caused enough trouble to make medical research step in. So yeah, jackjumper ants might be small, but they're definitely on the list of creatures you don't want to meet on an Australian hike. If you see a bunch of ants hopping around like they just drank 3 cups of coffee, steer clear, unless you want to spend the rest of your day explaining to your friends why you're limping back to the car.
Greenhead ant. If you thought regular ants were just picnic thieves, let me introduce you to the greenhead ant, Australia's shiny little landmine. These ants are small, but hard to miss because their heads and thoraxes have this metallic green sheen that looks almost pretty in the sunlight. Don't be fooled. That shiny head is just a warning label nature forgot to print. This will hurt. Greenhead ants are found all over Australia, especially in open bushland and urban gardens. They build nests with multiple entrances, so stepping in the wrong patch of grass can turn into an accidental raid. And unlike some ants that prefer to run away from trouble, greenheads stand their ground, literally. They'll rush out and sting whatever they think is threatening their nest. That might be a predator, your dog, or your unsuspecting ankle. The sting is a double whammy, sharp and burning at the same time. At first, it feels like a hot pinprick, but then the pain spreads in a slow, fiery wave. People often describe it as a burning sensation that just keeps getting worse before it starts to fade. And here's the kicker. The venom can actually cause tissue damage. We're talking redness, swelling, and in unlucky cases, nasty blisters that hang around for days. Some victims even experience secondary infections because the skin breaks down where they were stung. And just when you think that's bad enough, some people have severe allergic reactions to these ants. In fact, greenhead ants are one of the leading causes of insect sting anaphylaxis in Australia, right alongside jackjumper ants. Symptoms can include hives, difficulty breathing, and in rare cases, full-on anaphylactic shock. Basically, this tiny ant has the power to turn an afternoon in the garden into a rush to the emergency room. Behavior-wise, greenhead ants are surprisingly bold. They don't just sting once and leave. they can keep coming back for more. And their nests can house hundreds of workers. So if you annoy one, you might suddenly have several of them working together to make sure you really get the message. It's a coordinated, painful eviction notice. Scientists have studied their venom and found it's packed with peptides that target nerve cells and muscle tissue, which explains why it burns so badly and can lead to local cell death. But outside the lab, all you really need to know is that this ant is not one you want to pick a fight with. So if you're in Australia and you see a shiny green ant strutting around like it owns the place, it kind of does. Give it space, respect the nest, and keep your shoes on, unless you enjoy learning the hard way what burning pain really means.
Giant Asian Hornet. All right, let's talk about the bug that broke the internet a couple years ago. The giant Asian hornet, aka the infamous murder hornet. This is not your average backyard wasp. These monsters can grow up to 2 inches long, with huge orange heads and mandibles that look like they were designed by a cartoon villain. Seeing one in person is enough to make you rethink every life choice that led you into the outdoors. The sting of a giant Asian hornet is legendary. It's not just painful, it's destructive. The venom is so potent it can actually dissolve tissue. That's right, this thing doesn't just hurt you, it starts breaking down your flesh from the inside out. People describe the pain as a hot nail being driven through their skin, followed by swelling that can turn an entire limb puffy and red. If you get stung multiple times, you can end up with blistering, necrosis, that's tissue death, and in severe cases, organ failure. And here's the really scary part. These hornets don't just sting once and fly away. They can sting over and over again, delivering more venom each time. Their stinger is long enough to pierce most beekeeper suits, which is why they're a nightmare for honeybee populations. A small group of giant hornets can wipe out an entire beehive in a matter of hours. They don't even eat all the bees. They just decapitate them and carry off the thoraxes to feed to their larvae. It's like a horror movie playing out in the insect world. Victims who have been unlucky enough to get stung say the pain can last for hours, sometimes even days. And because they inject such a large amount of venom, a handful of stings can be enough to send a healthy adult to the hospital with kidney damage, sepsis, or even life-threatening allergic reactions. In rural parts of Asia, dozens of people die every year from multiple hornet stings. But as terrifying as they sound, giant hornets aren't actively hunting humans. They only attack if their nest is disturbed, and their nests are often hidden underground. Unfortunately, that means you might not even see them until they decide you're too close. When they feel threatened, they release a chemical signal that calls the rest of the colony to join in the attack. So if you see one buzzing angrily, it's a good idea to leave immediately before reinforcements show up. So, giant Asian hornets definitely live up to their dramatic nickname. They're huge, they're powerful, and their sting is a mix of pain, swelling, and potential tissue damage you'll never forget. If you ever run into one, don't play hero. Just back away and let the murder hornet keep its title.
Maricopa Harvester Ant. Okay, remember how we talked about harvester ants before? Meet their cousin, the Maricopa Harvester Ant, which takes the whole painful sting thing and cranks it up to 11. This little desert-dwelling ant, found mostly in the southwestern United States and northern Mexico, might look like just another red ant minding its business. But its venom? It's one of the most toxic insect venoms in the entire world, drop for drop. And yes, that includes bees, wasps, and even some snakes. This tiny creature is packing chemical weapon-level potency in its stinger. The pain starts sharp, like a pinprick, but it doesn't stop there. The burning spreads, then throbs, and then, just to make things interesting, it keeps hurting long after you thought it would be over. People who've been stung report hours of pain, sometimes accompanied by sweating, nausea, and muscle twitching. Basically, it's your body's way of saying, "Congratulations, you've just been chemically hijacked by an ant." And these ants are organized. Like other harvester ants, the Maricopa variety lives in large colonies, often with visible crater-like nests in sandy or dry soil. Step too close, and you might find yourself dealing with not one sting, but several, because these ants have no problem teaming up to make sure you really learn your lesson. The more stings you get, the more venom builds up, and the worse you're going to feel. Fun fact, scientists once calculated that if you were stung by enough Maricopa harvester ants at once, and I mean a lot, they could technically kill you. That's how strong their venom is. Here's what makes their venom so fascinating. It contains a cocktail of toxins that mess with your nerves and muscles at the same time. One of the components triggers your body to release massive amounts of its own pain chemicals. So your system basically becomes your worst enemy. It's like the ant is saying, "I could hurt you myself, but I'd rather make your body do the work." Diabolical. Despite all of this, Maricopa harvester ants aren't actively hunting you down. They're just extremely protective of their colonies and their food stores. They get their name because they collect seeds, harvesting them, hence the name, and store them underground. So if you find yourself near one of their carefully maintained nests, you're basically standing in the middle of their pantry, and they're not going to let you read the fridge without a fight. The good news is, if you're careful and watch where you step in desert areas, you can avoid these little guys completely. The bad news is, if you do get stung, you're in for a very long and very memorable few hours. Maricopa harvester ants prove that size isn't everything. Sometimes the smallest creatures pack the nastiest punch. Paper wasps. If you've ever sat outside in the summer and noticed those papery little nests hanging under your porch or roof eaves, congratulations, you've met paper wasps. They look kind of elegant compared to regular wasps, with their thin waists, long legs that dangle in flight, and those delicate gray nests made of chewed-up wood fibers. But don't be fooled by their arts and craft skills.
Paper wasps pack a sting that feels way nastier than you'd expect for something so small. Here's what makes them scary. Their venom is designed to be unforgettable. The sting feels like someone jammed a red-hot needle under your skin. And it's not a quick little zap either. The burning pain can last for minutes, sometimes even hours, and the spot can stay swollen, red, and sore long after the wasp is flown away. The reaction can be so bad that it feels completely out of proportion to the size of the insect, which is why so many people freak out when they get stung. Paper wasps are social insects, which means they live in colonies. When you bump their nest or swat at one of them, they release a chemical signal that basically tells the rest of the crew, "Hey, we're under attack." Suddenly, what started as one sting can turn into several, and now your afternoon barbecue has turned into a painful sprint back into the house. And unlike honeybees, wasps don't lose their stingers when they attack, so each one can sting you multiple times. Their nests are usually small compared to hornets or yellowjackets' nests, which might make you think they're not as dangerous. But paper wasps make up for their smaller numbers with enthusiasm. They're not afraid to defend their homes, and they're surprisingly quick. People who've been stung report swelling that sometimes spreads beyond the immediate area. Think entire hand or forearm puffing up from one unlucky hit. The venom itself is a mix of chemicals that cause pain, kill small prey, and trigger inflammation. It's not usually deadly unless you're allergic, but it can absolutely ruin your day. For people with wasp allergies, even a single sting can cause anaphylaxis, which is why encounters with paper wasps can be serious business. For everyone else, it's more about pain management, ice packs, antihistamines, and a few choice curse words. Here's the thing, though. Paper wasps aren't out to get you. They're actually pretty beneficial since they hunt caterpillars and other garden pests. So as much as we fear them, they're kind of like uninvited security guards for your backyard. Just don't get too close to their little paper fortress, or you'll find out the hard way why their sting has earned such a fierce reputation.
Deathstalker Scorpion. With a name like Deathstalker, you know this one isn't messing around. This scorpion sounds like a heavy metal band, and honestly, it lives up to the reputation. Found across North Africa and the Middle East, the Deathstalker is a slender, yellowish scorpion that looks deceptively delicate until it curls that tail and shows you why it's considered one of the most dangerous scorpions on Earth. Its venom isn't just painful, it's brutally painful. People who've been stung describe it as a searing, electric agony that shoots through the body. It's not just a local sting either. Because the venom is neurotoxic, it messes with your entire nervous system. Within minutes, you might feel tingling, numbness, muscle spasms, sweating, nausea. Basically, your body flipping every alarm switch it has. And then comes the pain that just doesn't quit. For some victims, it can last for hours, even days. The Deathstalker's venom is a complex cocktail designed to immobilize its prey, which usually means crickets and other insects. Unfortunately, humans are way bigger than crickets, so the venom doesn't kill us most of the time. It just makes us wish we were somewhere else entirely. In healthy adults, a sting is rarely fatal if treated quickly, but it's still a serious medical emergency, especially for children, the elderly, or anyone with a compromised immune system. Here's the part that might surprise you. Scientists actually love Deathstalker venom. Inside that nasty sting are unique peptides that researchers use to study nerve signals, brain function, and even develop treatments for conditions like diabetes and cancer. There's even an experimental tumor paint derived from Deathstalker venom that can make cancer cells light up during surgery so doctors can find and remove them more precisely. So yes, the world's scariest scorpion might also be helping save lives. That said, you definitely don't want to meet one of these guys by accident. They're nocturnal hunters, meaning they're most active at night. If you're camping in their native habitat, you'd better check your shoes before putting them on in the morning. Scorpions have a habit of hiding in dark, cozy places during the day. One sting to the foot, and you're in for a very long, very painful night. So, Deathstalker scorpions are a perfect example of nature being equal parts terrifying and fascinating. They're not aggressive without reason. They don't chase people down, but they won't hesitate to defend themselves if you step too close. Respect their space, and you'll never have to find out firsthand why they've earned a name that sounds straight out of an action movie.
Arizona bark scorpion. If you live in the southwestern United States, especially Arizona, you probably already know about this little desert menace, the Arizona bark scorpion. It's not very big, only a few inches long, and it's a pale yellow color that almost blends perfectly with sand, which is exactly what makes it so easy to accidentally step on one. And trust me, if that happens, you will never forget it. The sting of an Arizona bark scorpion has been described as feeling like hot shards of glass being driven into your skin. At first, it's a sharp, burning pain, but then it spreads, a searing, radiating ache that makes the whole area throb. Victims often report tingling or numbness that creeps up the limb, and in severe cases, muscle twitching, difficulty breathing, and even temporary paralysis. Basically, your nervous system goes into panic mode. What makes this scorpion extra notorious is that it's the most venomous scorpion in North America. Most scorpion stings in the U.S. are painful, but not dangerous. This one is the exception. Its venom is neurotoxic, meaning it interferes with the way your nerves communicate with your muscles. If you're unlucky enough to be stung multiple times, or if you're a child or elderly, this sting can absolutely send you to the hospital. Thankfully, anti-venom is available, and it works really well, but only if you get it in time. One of the weird things about Arizona bark scorpions is that they can climb walls and even hang from ceilings. Yep, you read that right. These little guys are the ninja acrobats of the scorpion world. People have been stung after reaching into cupboards, picking up shoes, or even while sleeping because a scorpion decided to hang out in the sheets. If you live in scorpion country, a black light flashlight becomes your best friend. These scorpions glow bright blue-green under UV light, which is equal parts terrifying and awesome. Here's a fun fact. Despite their scary reputation, Arizona bark scorpions are actually a big part of the desert ecosystem, keeping populations of cockroaches, crickets, and other pests under control. They're not aggressive by nature. They don't go looking for people to sting. But if they feel threatened or get trapped against your skin, they will absolutely defend themselves.
So, if you ever travel through the desert Southwest, keep your shoes off the floor at night. Shake out your clothes, and maybe run a quick blacklight check before bed. Because one wrong step could feel like you've just crushed a light bulb with your bare foot. Except this light bulb fights back. Indian Red Scorpion. When people talk about the most dangerous scorpions in the world, the Indian red scorpion almost always tops the list. This isn't just a creepy crawly you brush off and forget. This is a creature with a sting so painful and so potent that doctors across India have been dealing with its victims for generations. And it doesn't just hurt, its venom can actually kill. The Indian red scorpion is medium-sized, reddish-brown in color, and found across India, Pakistan, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. It likes to hide under logs, rocks, and debris, which means people often get stung by accident, stepping on one barefoot, or reaching into the wrong place. The sting itself is immediate and vicious. People describe it as an intense burning pain that radiates outward from the sting site, followed by swelling and numbness. And that's just the start. The real danger comes from what happens inside your body. The venom is a powerful neurotoxin that affects your autonomic nervous system, the part that controls things like your heartbeat, breathing, and blood pressure. Within minutes, victims can develop sweating, vomiting, confusion, and severe pain that seems to take over the entire limb. In the worst cases, the venom can cause your blood pressure to skyrocket and your heart to start racing, which can lead to pulmonary edema, fluid in the lungs, and even heart failure. For decades, this scorpion sting was considered one of the leading causes of death from scorpion stings worldwide. In some rural areas, fatalities were tragically common. But here's the good news. Thanks to modern medicine, the survival rate has dramatically improved. Doctors now use specific antivenoms and drugs like prazosin, which helps control blood pressure and reduces the risk of heart complications. With proper treatment, most victims can recover, though they definitely won't forget the experience. What makes the Indian red scorpion particularly scary is that it's not shy. It doesn't always run from humans, and it's known to sting multiple times if provoked. Combine that behavior with a venom that is both excruciating and medically dangerous, and you've got a recipe for disaster. And here's a strange fact. Despite how dangerous they are, Indian red scorpions are sometimes kept in captivity by researchers and enthusiasts because of the medical value of their venom. Scientists study its toxins to understand how nerves work and to develop better treatments for heart problems. So as terrifying as the scorpion is, it's also helping push medical science forward. Bottom line, if you're in India and see a reddish scorpion hanging out where you're about to step, give it space. This is one of those creatures you absolutely respect from a distance, because up close, it's not just a bad sting, it's a potentially life-threatening event. Black Fat-Tailed Scorpion. If scorpions had a most wanted poster, the black fat-tailed scorpion would be front and center. This species is one of the most dangerous in the world, and it looks the part. Jet black with a thick, intimidating tail that's basically nature's warning sign. You'll find them across North Africa and parts of the Middle East, often in dry, rocky areas where they hide during the day and come out at night to hunt. Unfortunately, that means a lot of stings happen when people accidentally step too close in the dark.
The sting of a black fat-tailed scorpion is nothing short of brutal. First comes the sharp, stabbing pain, immediate and intense, and then a burning that spreads outward like fire racing through your veins. But the pain is just the beginning. This scorpion's venom is a powerful neurotoxin that can wreak havoc on your entire nervous system. Within minutes, you might feel muscle twitching, sweating, nausea, dizziness, and heart palpitations. For some victims, the venom causes blood pressure spikes and irregular heart rhythms, which can lead to full-on cardiac failure if left untreated. And here's the terrifying part. Unlike a lot of scorpions that give a dry sting, injecting little or no venom as a warning, black fat-tailed scorpions are known for delivering a full dose when they strike. They're aggressive, and they don't mess around. In rural areas, stings from this species have been responsible for a significant number of fatalities, especially in children, whose smaller bodies can't handle as much venom. Doctors in high-risk regions are well trained to deal with these stings quickly. Antivenom is available in many hospitals, and when given in time, it can save lives. But even with treatment, the pain can linger for hours, sometimes even days. Victims have described it as a deep, burning ache that feels like it's pulsing with every heartbeat, a constant reminder of just how close they came to serious danger. Despite how scary they are, black fat-tailed scorpions aren't hunting humans. They sting defensively, usually when someone accidentally disturbs them or steps near their hiding place. But their potent venom makes even an accidental encounter something you'll never forget. Interestingly, scientists are also studying this scorpion's venom for potential medical uses. Some of the compounds have been shown to block certain types of ion channels in nerve cells, which could eventually lead to new treatments for conditions like epilepsy. So even this tiny terror might someday save lives. But until that day comes, the best advice is simple. If you're walking around at night in areas where black fat-tailed scorpions live, wear shoes, carry a flashlight, and check your bedroll before lying down, because nothing ruins a desert camping trip faster than finding out what this scorpion's sting feels like.
Sydney funnel web spider. Australia strikes again, this time with a spider so infamous that it has its own emergency treatment program. Meet the Sydney funnel web spider, a shiny black arachnid with fangs so big they can actually pierce through leather boots. No joke, this spider is the stuff of nightmares, not just because it looks scary, but because its bite is one of the most painful and medically dangerous spider bites in the world. The Sydney funnel web gets its name from the web it builds, a funnel-shaped silk tunnel where it waits for prey to walk by. But what it's really known for is its venom. When this spider bites, it doesn't just hurt a little, it hurts a lot. People who've been bitten describe the pain as intense, throbbing, and unrelenting, like someone driving a hot nail into your finger and refusing to pull it out. And it's not just local pain. The venom, called a trachotoxin, goes after your nervous system. It basically forces your nerve cells to fire over and over again, which means your muscles can start twitching uncontrollably, you might sweat buckets, and your blood pressure can skyrocket. This venom is so powerful that before antivenom was developed in the 1980s, funnel web bites were often fatal, sometimes within hours. Victims could experience convulsions, difficulty breathing, and full-blown heart problems. Children were especially at risk. Nowadays, thanks to antivenom, deaths are incredibly rare, but the pain is still very real, and no one who's been bitten ever calls it a mild experience. The spiders themselves are surprisingly aggressive when they feel threatened. They'll rear up on their back legs, display their dripping fangs, and if you don't take the hint, they will strike repeatedly. They can even deliver multiple bites in a single attack. And unlike many spiders that prefer to run and hide, funnel webs will stand their ground. That's why encounters can be so dangerous, especially if one wanders into a garage, a shoe, or a swimming pool, which they're known to do. Here's a bizarre fact. Male funnel web spiders are actually more dangerous than females because their venom contains higher levels of the really nasty neurotoxin. And they're the ones most likely to wander into people's homes during mating season. So if you ever hear Australians joking about checking their shoes before putting them on, they're not kidding. That's real survival advice. Despite its reputation, the Sydney funnel web spider has also indirectly saved lives. Its venom research led to one of the fastest anti-venom development programs in medical history. The anti-venom is so effective that no deaths have been recorded since its introduction. So while this spider is still terrifying, we've at least taken away its deadliest weapon. But let's be real. Even with anti-venom, no one wants to find out what this bite feels like. If you ever see a shiny black spider with massive fangs giving you the full "fight me" pose, the best move is to back away slowly and let it have the house.
Brazilian wandering spiders. Now we're getting into the celebrity tier of spiders. The Brazilian wandering spider, also nicknamed the banana spider because it sometimes shows up in banana shipments. And honestly, if you ever find one in your fruit bowl, you have permission to scream. This spider is not just big and scary looking. Its bite is considered one of the most painful in the arachnid world. But that's not even its weirdest claim to fame. Let's start with the pain. People who've been bitten describe it as burning, throbbing agony that spreads quickly from the bite site. The venom is a neurotoxin, which means it interferes with your nervous system, causing intense pain, sweating, elevated heart rate, and muscle cramps. If untreated, it can even lead to breathing difficulties, which is why these bites are considered medical emergencies in their native range of South and Central America. But here's where things take a turn for the weird. One of the side effects of a bite from this spider is something called priapism, a medical term for a prolonged and very unwelcome erection. And we're not talking a quick side effect here. We're talking hours, painful hours. Some victims have even needed medical intervention to make it stop. So yes, this spider's venom is both excruciating and incredibly awkward. In fact, this side effect has attracted the attention of scientists who have studied the spider's venom for potential use in treating erectile dysfunction. The idea is that certain components of the venom increase blood flow in a way that could be harnessed safely in medicine. So one of the world's most terrifying spiders might actually help people someday. Talk about a strange twist of fate. Another thing that makes the Brazilian wandering spider especially scary is its behavior. Unlike web-building spiders, this one doesn't sit and wait. It actively roams the forest floor at night looking for prey, which is how it got the wandering part of its name. That means it's much more likely to cross paths with humans. And when threatened, it's aggressive, raising its front legs high in the air in a display that basically says, "Come any closer and you'll regret it." Luckily, even though they have a scary reputation, not every bite from a Brazilian wandering spider results in a full dose of venom.
Sometimes they give what's called a dry bite, meaning they don't inject venom at all. But when they do, the combination of extreme pain, dangerous symptoms, and that infamous side effect makes for one of the most unforgettable encounters in the animal kingdom. So, if you're ever in the rainforests of South America and see a large brown spider doing the threat pose, give it plenty of space. Because the last thing you want on your vacation is to explain to a doctor why you're in agony and why you've been stuck with one very unusual souvenir.
Redback spider. If Australia had an official spider mascot for things you don't want to find under the toilet seat, it would be the redback spider. These little nightmares are close cousins of the black widow and are found all over Australia, in sheds, mailboxes, garages, and yes, occasionally lurking in bathrooms. They're easy to recognize once you know what to look for. Shiny black body, long thin legs, and that telltale bright red stripe down the back. That stripe is basically nature's way of saying, "Stay away, I bite." And bite they do. The pain from a redback spider bite has been described as feeling like burning acid under the skin. At first, it's just the local area, but then it spreads, becoming throbbing and intense. It's not the quick kind of pain that fades after a few minutes. This pain hangs around and can keep getting worse. Some people also get sweating, nausea, abdominal cramping, and headaches. Basically, it's a full-body misery package. What makes the redback especially infamous is how close it likes to live to humans. Unlike a lot of spiders that prefer remote corners of the wilderness, redbacks thrive around human structures. They love dry, sheltered spots, under outdoor furniture, in toolboxes, in kids' play equipment. They build messy, sticky webs low to the ground, which means you can accidentally brush against one without even realizing it until you feel the sting. Historically, redback bites were no joke. Before anti-venom was introduced in the 1950s, serious bites sometimes caused hours, even days of intense pain, and in some cases they were deadly. These days, deaths are incredibly rare thanks to the widespread availability of antivenom. But that doesn't mean the bite is suddenly pleasant. It still puts plenty of people in the hospital every year, especially kids who are more vulnerable to the venom. Interestingly, not all redback bites result in venom injection. Like many venomous animals, they can deliver dry bites, where they just give you the mechanical bite without wasting their venom. But if they do give you the full dose, you're in for what's called redback envenomation syndrome, which is a fancy way of saying you're going to have a really rough day. Despite their scary reputation, redbacks are not aggressive. They won't go out of their way to bite unless they're provoked or accidentally pressed against your skin. They mostly just want to sit quietly in their webs and wait for insects to get caught. But if you do get bitten, doctors recommend applying ice to help with the pain and getting medical attention if symptoms get worse. So yeah, the redback spider is one of those classic Australian creatures that reminds you the whole continent is basically a survival challenge. They're tiny, they're everywhere, and they've got a bite that feels like acid under your skin. But hey, at least they have the decency to wear a bright red warning sign.
Mouse spider. If you thought the Sydney funnel web spider was the main villain of Australia's spider world, meet its lesser-known but equally nasty cousin, the mouse spider. Don't let the name fool you. It has nothing to do with mice. The name actually comes from its burrows, which are deep and lined with silk, kind of like little mouse holes. But trust me, if you stuck your hand in one of those holes, you'd regret it immediately. Mouse spiders are chunky, black and shiny, with big fangs that look like they mean business. They live across Australia and are often mistaken for funnel webs because they look so similar. And unfortunately, their bite can pack almost the same punch. Their venom is closely related to funnel web venom, and while they don't bite as often, when they do, the effects can be pretty brutal. The pain from a mouse spider bite can be severe, throbbing, and long-lasting, easily comparable to a funnel web bite. Some victims report sweating, muscle spasms, and headaches, along with the intense local pain. In rare cases, untreated bites can cause serious systemic symptoms, but the good news is that funnel web antivenom also works on mouse spider venom. That's a lucky break, because no one wants to wait around and see how bad things can get. Here's a weird twist. Mouse spiders are actually less aggressive than funnel webs. In fact, many bites are what scientists call dry bites, where the spider doesn't inject venom at all. In those cases, it's just the puncture wound you have to deal with. But you never want to assume it's a dry bite. The risk of full envenomation is too high to take chances. Doctors always treat mouse spider bites seriously. These spiders spend most of their lives hidden underground, inside burrows with trapdoor-like lids they make from soil and silk. They sit and wait for prey to wander by, then ambush it with lightning-fast strikes. So the good news is you're unlikely to see one casually hanging out in your house. The bad news is males go wandering during mating season, which is when most encounters with humans happen, and that's when bites are most likely. Mouse spiders might not have the headline-grabbing reputation of funnel webs or redbacks, but ask any Australian, and they'll tell you, this is not a spider you want to mess with. If you see a large, shiny black spider with huge fangs walking around like it owns the place, it's best to give it space and call pest control if it's inside. This is one house guest you do not want to relocate by hand.
Six-eyed sand spider. If the Sydney funnel web is the instant nightmare of the spider world, the six-eyed sand spider is the slow burn horror. This creepy little arachnid lives in deserts and sandy regions of southern Africa, where it's almost impossible to spot because it's perfectly camouflaged. It literally buries itself under the sand, with just its eyes and front legs poking out, waiting to ambush anything unlucky enough to walk past. It's like the horror movie villain of the spider world, lying in wait, silent and patient. The six-eyed sand spider isn't aggressive toward humans, which is good news, because its venom is absolutely vicious. Unlike spiders that deliver immediate agony, this one plays the long game. Its bite can cause slow, spreading necrosis, which is a scientific way of saying it tills tissue. The pain might not even feel that bad at first. It can start as mild discomfort. Then, over hours and days, it gets worse and worse as the venom starts breaking down skin and muscle. People who've been unlucky enough to get bitten have reported blistering, swelling,
and deep ulcers that can take weeks to heal. In some severe cases, doctors have had to remove dead tissue, even perform amputations to stop the damage from spreading. It's not just a sting and forget kind of bite. This is the type of injury that becomes your main character arc for the next few months. Here's the truly scary part. There's no widely available antivenom for the six-eyed sand spider. Medical treatment is mostly supportive, cleaning the wound, controlling infection, and managing pain while your body slowly deals with the damage. Fortunately, confirmed bites on humans are extremely rare. Most of what we know about its venom comes from lab studies and a handful of cases where people were bitten accidentally. And despite its horror movie vibe, this spider isn't out to get you. It doesn't go chasing humans across the dunes. Its entire lifestyle is built around staying hidden and conserving energy, which means most of the time you'd never even know it's there. It's only when someone disturbs it, say by accidentally putting a hand on one while moving rocks, that a bite might happen. In a way, the six-eyed sand spider is one of nature's most fascinating booby traps, invisible, deadly, but mercifully rare in its interactions with people. And maybe that's what makes it so chilling. It's not the pain that hits you right away. It's the kind that sneaks up on you, gets worse over time, and leaves scars you'll be looking at for the rest of your life. Brown recluse. If there's one spider that's earned its scary reputation in the United States, it's the brown recluse. This little spider isn't big, flashy, or even particularly aggressive, but its bite can cause one of the nastiest injuries you'll ever see. The name recluse actually tells you a lot about it. It likes to hide away in quiet, undisturbed places like closets, basements, attics, and sheds. Unfortunately, that also means you're most likely to meet one when you least expect it, like when you put on a shoe that's been sitting in the garage for a while. The bite of a brown recluse isn't immediately painful, which is honestly the creepiest part. Sometimes people don't even realize they've been bitten until hours later, when the area starts to itch and burn. Then the pain sets in, a slow, deep ache that feels like it's coming from under the skin. The venom contains enzymes that literally break down tissue, turning healthy skin and muscle into a soft, dying mess. Over the next day or two, the area can turn red, blister, and eventually form an open ulcer that can take weeks or even months to heal. In the most severe cases, the tissue death, called necrosis, can be so bad that doctors have to surgically remove dead skin to stop the spread. The resulting scars can be permanent, and they're not small. Some brown recluse bites leave crater-like wounds the size of a coin or even larger. It's the kind of injury that looks like a special effect from a zombie movie, except it's completely real. The good news is that not every brown recluse bite ends up this bad. In fact, many bites cause only mild symptoms and heal on their own. The really severe cases are actually pretty rare, but they're the ones that get all the attention, because let's be honest, photos of necrotic spider bites are the stuff of internet nightmares. Brown recluses can be identified by the violin-shaped marking on their back, which has earned them the nickname fiddleback spider. They're shy by nature and prefer to run away from humans if they can. Most bites happen when the spider is accidentally trapped against the skin, like when you pull on a shirt it's been hiding in or roll over one in bed. So, what do you do if you think you've been bitten? Wash the area, put ice on it, and get medical attention, especially if the pain gets worse or you see spreading redness or blistering. Early treatment can make a big difference. And maybe do a quick shakeout of your shoes before putting them on, just in case one of these little 8-legged recluses decided to move in.
Box jellyfish. If you thought land creatures had the monopoly on painful venom, let's take a swim straight into the territory of the box jellyfish, one of the ocean's most feared residents. Chironex fleckeri, the infamous box jelly, is often called the most venomous creature on Earth. It's found in the warm coastal waters of northern Australia and parts of Southeast Asia, and it has a sting that can be both unimaginably painful and deadly, sometimes in just a few minutes. The box jellyfish is almost invisible in the water, which is part of what makes it so dangerous. Its bell is pale and translucent, and its long tentacles, which can stretch up to 10 feet, dangle like invisible fishing lines. Each tentacle is loaded with thousands of microscopic harpoons called nematocysts, which are basically tiny spring-loaded venom injectors. Rush against one tentacle, and dozens, maybe hundreds of these harpoons fire into your skin at once. The pain is immediate and intense, like being whipped with red-hot wires. Victims often scream, convulse, or even go into shock from the sheer intensity of it. The stings leave angry, whip-like welts across the skin that can scar permanently. But pain is only part of the danger. The venom is a potent cocktail designed to kill small prey almost instantly, and in humans, it can cause cardiovascular collapse. In other words, your heart can literally stop beating within minutes if enough venom gets into your system. This is why box jellyfish encounters are treated as full-on emergencies in Australia. Vinegar is kept in stations along popular beaches because it helps neutralize the stingers and stop them from firing more venom. Lifeguards are trained to respond immediately, sometimes with CPR right there on the beach, because every second counts. If victims survive the first few critical minutes, they still face hours of excruciating pain, and in some cases, weeks of lingering muscle cramps and anxiety. Box jellyfish season in northern Australia is taken so seriously that beaches put up stinger nets and post warning signs when they're around. Locals wear full-body stinger suits to avoid accidental contact, because even a single tentacle brushing your leg can be enough to send you to the hospital. And yes, people have been killed by just 1 or 2 tentacles. Despite how terrifying this all sounds, the box jellyfish isn't out there hunting swimmers. It's just floating around looking for small fish and shrimp to paralyze and eat. Humans are just unlucky giant obstacles that sometimes get in the way. Still, this is one ocean creature that demands respect. If you're ever swimming in northern Australia during stinger season, stay inside the nets, wear protection, and keep the vinegar handy, because this is one pain you do not want to experience.
Irukandji Jellyfish. If the box jellyfish is the ocean's big, scary monster, the Irukandji jellyfish is its tiny, evil sidekick, and in some ways, it's even worse. This jellyfish is so small, about the size of your fingernail, that you might not even see it in the water, which is a problem because its sting can send you straight into one of the most agonizing experiences known to medicine. The Irukandji jellyfish is found in northern Australian waters, like its big cousin, the box jellyfish, and sometimes as far as Thailand and Hawaii. Its bell is nearly transparent, and its tentacles are so fine they look like hair, which means you won't know you've brushed up against one until it's too late. And here's the kicker. The sting doesn't even hurt that much at first. Victims have reported feeling just a mild prick or tingle, but give it 20 to 30 minutes, and then the real horror begins. What happens next is called Irukandji syndrome, and it's not for the faint of heart. The venom triggers your body to release massive amounts of stress hormones like adrenaline and noradrenaline, basically throwing your system into fight-or-flight overdrive. The result? Excruciating muscle cramps that can contort your whole body, severe back pain, nausea, vomiting, difficulty breathing, and sky-high blood pressure. And then there's the strangest symptom of all, an overwhelming sense of doom. Victims have described being absolutely certain they were about to die, even when doctors told them they were stable. Some even begged to be put out of their misery because the pain was so intense. The syndrome can last for hours, sometimes days, with waves of agony and anxiety washing over the victim. There's no specific anti-venom for Irukandji stings, so treatment usually means strong painkillers, blood pressure control, and waiting it out. Some people end up in the ICU just to keep their symptoms under control. Despite its reputation, the Irukandji jellyfish is not out there plotting against humans. It's just another tiny predator looking for small fish and crustaceans to paralyze and eat. But its venom just happens to hit the human nervous system in one of the most miserable ways imaginable. To make things even creepier, scientists only discovered this jellyfish's role in causing Irukandji syndrome in the 1960s, after decades of mysterious cases of swimmers getting violently sick for no obvious reason. And because the jellyfish is so small and hard to see, researchers think there may be several species capable of causing the syndrome, which means we might not even know all of its culprits yet. So if you're planning to swim in northern Australia during stinger season, wearing a full-body stinger suit isn't being dramatic, it's being smart. Because nothing says ruined vacation quite like days of relentless pain and the unshakable feeling that the universe has personally targeted you.
Bluebottle. If you've ever walked along a beach and seen what looks like a little blue balloon washed up on the sand, you've probably met the bluebottle, also known as the Portuguese man-of-war. And here's a pro tip: don't touch it. Even dead ones can ruin your entire day. This creature isn't actually a single animal, but a floating colony of specialized organisms working together like a tiny, terrifying team. And it comes with tentacles that can stretch up to 30 feet, turning a peaceful swim into an impromptu pain endurance test. The sting of a bluebottle is one of those things you never forget. Its tentacles are lined with thousands of stinging cells called nematocysts, and when they brush against your skin, they fire venom like tiny harpoons. The result? Instant burning pain that feels like someone just lashed you with a red-hot whip. The marks it leaves are unmistakable. Long, red, angry welts that follow the exact path of the tentacle that got you. They look like someone drew lines of fire across your skin. The pain can range from ouch to I would like to leave my body now,
depending on how much tentacle you touched. For most people, it's an intense, burning pain that can last from minutes to hours, sometimes accompanied by swelling, nausea, and muscle cramps. For unlucky victims or those stung across large areas, the reaction can be much worse, with difficulty breathing, shock, or even heart complications. Lifeguards in Australia and other parts of the world see hundreds of these stings during the summer months, especially when the wind pushes bluebottles into shallow waters. One of the scariest things about the bluebottle is that those tentacles can still sting even if they've detached from the body. People have been stung by stepping on tentacles washed up on the sand, not realizing they were still loaded with venom. That's why beachgoers are always warned not to pick them up, no matter how pretty that electric blue float looks. Here's a fun fact. Despite how painful they are, bluebottle stings aren't usually deadly. They're just spectacularly miserable. Treatment usually involves rinsing the sting with seawater, never fresh water. That makes the stingers fire more venom. Carefully removing any tentacle pieces and applying heat to break down the toxins. In other words, a nice hot shower might actually be your best friend after one of these encounters. The bluebottle might look delicate, bobbing peacefully on the waves, but it's basically a floating minefield of pain. If you ever see one while swimming, give it a wide berth, because getting wrapped up in those tentacles is like getting hit with a whip you can't escape from. Beautiful? Yes. Harmless? Absolutely not.
Sea wasp jellyfish. If the ocean had a boss fight, the sea wasp jellyfish would be it. This creature, which is actually a type of box jellyfish, is one of the deadliest animals in the world, and it looks almost harmless. Its body is nearly transparent, which means you can be swimming right into danger without ever seeing it coming. And if you do, well, let's just say the ocean will have your full attention very quickly. The sea wasp's tentacles can be several meters long and are lined with thousands of stinging cells, each capable of firing venom into your skin in a fraction of a second. The result is immediate explosive pain. Victims say it feels like being seared with a hot iron or electrocuted all at once. The marks look like long red ribbons wrapped around the skin, and the pain is so intense that many people go into shock almost instantly. And here's the really scary part. If enough tentacles make contact, the venom can stop your heart in just a few minutes. Yes, you read that right. Minutes. This is why sea wasp jellyfish are considered a medical emergency of the highest order in northern Australia and other regions where they're found. If someone is stung badly enough, lifeguards and paramedics have to work fast, administering CPR, dousing the tentacles with vinegar to stop more venom from firing, and rushing the victim to a hospital. Anti-venom exists, but the key is surviving those critical first minutes. Even if the sting isn't fatal, it's no walk in the park. Survivors often describe the pain as the worst thing they've ever felt, a deep, burning, whole-body agony that can last for hours. And because the venom also affects the heart and nervous system, people can experience difficulty breathing, muscle cramps, and a feeling of overwhelming panic. It's not just pain, it's your entire system being hijacked at once. To make things even more unnerving, sea wasps aren't rare. They're found in coastal waters during the warmer months, which means people have to share the beach with them.
In Australia, stinger nets are put up during jellyfish season to keep swimmers safe, and beaches often have vinegar stations mounted on posts so rescuers can respond immediately if someone is stung. But as terrifying as they are, sea wasps aren't out there trying to ruin beach vacations. They're just drifting around looking for fish and shrimp to eat. It just so happens that their venom, designed to kill small prey instantly, is strong enough to take down something much bigger, like, say, a person. So if you're heading to tropical waters, pay attention to stinger season warnings. Wear protective suits if needed, and never ignore those vinegar bottles on the beach. Because a run-in with a sea wasp jellyfish isn't just a painful inconvenience, it's a race against the clock.
Lion's mane. If sea creatures had hairdos, the lion's mane jellyfish would win Best in Show. This jelly is absolutely massive. Some of them grow so large that their tentacles can stretch over 100 feet, making them longer than a blue whale. Imagine drifting through the ocean and bumping into something that looks like a glowing red pom-pom the size of a car. Beautiful? Yes. Safe? Absolutely not. The lion's mane jellyfish is found in cold northern waters, the North Atlantic, the Arctic, even near northern Japan. Its bell can be bright reddish-orange, which is why it gets that majestic lion's mane name. But its tentacles are where the real trouble begins. They trail behind the jellyfish like a curtain of invisible tripwires, and brushing against them is like walking into a wall of electric barbed wire. The sting of a lion's mane jellyfish is painful right away, a sharp, burning sensation that feels like being whipped with a sizzling hot wire. Because the tentacles are so long, you can get tangled up in them without even realizing what hit you, which means multiple stings at once. The result? Rows of red welts that follow the exact path of the tentacle, almost like a road map of your bad luck. The pain can last for hours, and in some cases, victims report nausea, muscle cramps, and even difficulty breathing. What's even worse is that those tentacles can break off and keep stinging independently. So even if the jellyfish has floated far away, you can still run into its leftover booby traps in the water. And just like other jellyfish, dead tentacles that wash up on the beach can still sting if you step on them barefoot. Basically, this creature's reach extends long after it's gone. Here's a bit of bizarre trivia. During World War I, a group of British soldiers swimming off the coast of Massachusetts was stung by a giant lion's mane jellyfish, resulting in multiple hospitalizations and one reported death. That's how potent these tentacles are. Most stings aren't deadly today, but they can still send people to the ER if enough venom is injected. Treatment usually involves rinsing the area with seawater, carefully removing any tentacle fragments, tweezers are your friend here, and applying heat to ease the pain. Vinegar can also help neutralize the stinging cells, depending on where you are, but always check local guidelines, since different jellyfish require different treatments. The lion's mane jellyfish might look like a slow, peaceful drifter, but it's basically a floating minefield. If you're swimming in waters where they're common, keep your distance, because a surprise encounter with one of those tentacles can turn a perfect beach day into a painful lesson in respecting nature.
Cone snail. If you think only big, scary animals are dangerous, meet the cone snail, a creature so deadly it's earned the nickname the cigarette of death. Why? Because, according to legend, once it stings you,
You only have enough time left to smoke a cigarette before you die. Dramatic? Yes, but not entirely wrong. Cone snails are beautiful little sea snails with intricately patterned cone-shaped shells. They look harmless, like something you'd pick up on the beach and take home as a souvenir. Big mistake. Inside that pretty shell is a slow-moving hunter armed with one of the most sophisticated venom delivery systems in the animal kingdom. Instead of jaws or stingers, the cone snail has a modified tooth that acts like a tiny harpoon. When prey gets too close, it shoots this harpoon out, injects venom, and reels the victim in like a fisherman. For humans, getting stung by a cone snail is a whole different level of pain. Victims describe an immediate, sharp, stabbing sensation, followed by numbness, tingling, and spreading paralysis. The venom is a mix of powerful toxins called conotoxins that shut down nerve signals in your body. In other words, your muscles stop working, including the ones that help you breathe. There is no antivenom, so treatment is basically life support, while doctors try to keep you alive long enough for the venom to wear off. The most dangerous species is Conus geographus, also called the geography cone, which is found in the warm waters of the Indo-Pacific. It's not aggressive toward humans. You really have to pick one up or step on it to get stung. But if it does fire its harpoon into you, the consequences can be deadly. Fatalities have been reported, especially in cases where victims didn't get quick medical help. And here's where it gets fascinating. Scientists are obsessed with cone snail venom. Those conotoxins are incredibly precise. They target specific receptors in the nervous system, which makes them incredibly useful for medical research. In fact, a painkiller derived from cone snail venom called ziconotide is already being used to treat severe chronic pain. So this tiny ocean killer might actually be the key to helping millions of people someday. Still, no amount of potential medical breakthroughs makes this a snail you want to handle casually. Divers are always warned to look but not touch, and beachcombers are told the same. If you ever find a gorgeous cone shell in shallow water, admire it with your eyes, not your hands, because what looks like a pretty souvenir could actually be holding one of the most dangerous weapons in the sea.
Textile cone snail. If you thought the geographic cone snail was scary, wait until you meet its equally beautiful and equally deadly cousin, the textile cone snail. This one is sometimes nicknamed the cloth of gold cone because its shell has this gorgeous pattern of gold, white, and brown that looks like a piece of luxury fabric. It's so pretty that shell collectors prize it, which is kind of wild, considering that inside lives one of the ocean's most efficient little killers. Like its relatives, the textile cone snail hunts with a tiny, hollow, harpoon-like tooth that it launches at unsuspecting prey, usually small fish and worms. When the harpoon hits, it delivers a dose of venom packed with conotoxins that mess with the nervous system. For the prey, this means almost instant paralysis. For humans unlucky enough to be stung, it means a terrifying and painful experience that can end very badly if not treated quickly. The sting starts with a sharp prick, like a bee sting, but then things get serious. Victims often report an intense burning pain that spreads outward from the sting site, followed by numbness and muscle weakness. Within minutes, the venom can start shutting down muscle control, including the muscles you need to breathe. That's where the danger lies. There's no anti-venom for cone snail stings, so treatment usually means rushing the victim to the hospital, putting them on life support if necessary, and hoping their body can ride out the venom's effects. What makes the textile cone extra dangerous is that it's not a rare species. It's found across the Indo-Pacific, from the Red Sea to Hawaii, often in shallow water where divers and snorkelers can easily encounter it. And because its shell is so beautiful, a lot of stings happen when curious humans decide to pick one up. Big mistake. The snail can fire its harpoon even through wetsuit material, so protective clothing isn't always enough. And here's a weird fact. That venom cocktail the snail uses is one of the most complex in the animal kingdom, with dozens of different toxins working together like a perfectly tuned orchestra. Some block nerve signals, others amplify them, and together they create a complete system shutdown for the prey. It's brilliant and horrifying all at once. Scientists are actively studying textile cone venom because of its potential medical applications. Those highly specific toxins could lead to new pain treatments, heart medications, and even tools for studying brain disorders. But until that research pays off, it's best to keep your hands far, far away from this little mollusk. The textile cone may look like a piece of art, but it's a masterpiece you do not want to hold. Stonefish. If there were an award for most painful fish in the sea, the stonefish would win it by a landslide. This creature is basically the ocean's ultimate booby trap. It's ugly, lumpy, and perfectly camouflaged to look like a rock or a piece of coral, which means you might not even notice it until you step on it, and that's when the nightmare begins. The stonefish has 13 sharp dorsal spines running along its back, each one connected to venom glands. When you step on it or otherwise put pressure on its back, those spines shoot upward like hypodermic needles, injecting venom straight into your foot or leg. And this venom isn't just painful, it's legendary. Victims describe it as feeling like their bones are being smashed with a hammer and then set on fire. The pain is so intense that people have reportedly passed out, vomited, or begged doctors to amputate the limb just to make it stop. The effects don't stop with pain. The venom also causes massive swelling, tissue death, and in severe cases, shock or even heart failure. If multiple spines puncture the skin, the dose can be enough to kill a person. Stonefish stings are treated as medical emergencies, and antivenom is available. In fact, stonefish antivenom is one of the most frequently used antivenoms in Australia. Hot water immersion is also used to break down the venom proteins and give some relief from the agony. What makes stonefish so dangerous is how perfectly they hide. They bury themselves in sand or sit motionless on reef bottoms, looking exactly like a lump of coral or algae-covered rock. Snorkelers and swimmers often get stung simply by stepping down in the wrong place. Even experienced divers can be fooled because the fish doesn't move until it absolutely has to. It's not aggressive, it's just waiting for prey to swim by.
Stonefish are found across the Indo-Pacific region, from the Red Sea to northern Australia, and even in shallow tidal pools. Basically, if you're wading barefoot in tropical waters, there's a chance one of these living landmines is somewhere under your feet. Locals and guides often recommend wearing thick-soled reef shoes to avoid accidental encounters, because prevention is way better than dealing with the aftermath. Here's a wild fact. The stonefish can survive out of water for up to 24 hours, which means it can still sting you if you accidentally step on one stranded on the beach. So yes, this is a fish that can ruin your day both in and out of the ocean. Respect the rock-shaped fish, because the last thing you want is to find out firsthand why this thing is considered one of the most painful experiences a human can endure.
Lionfish. Lionfish might be some of the most beautiful fish in the ocean, but don't let those feathery fins fool you. This is one of those creatures that proves nature loves to mix gorgeous with dangerous. With their striking stripes and fan-like fins, lionfish looked like living pieces of art gliding through the water. But hidden in those dramatic fins are venomous spines that can turn your tropical snorkeling trip into a very painful story. The lionfish's spines are connected to venom glands, and when they puncture your skin, they deliver a dose of pain that victims describe as sharp, burning, and almost electric. The pain is immediate and can last for hours, sometimes accompanied by throbbing swelling that makes the whole area feel like it's pulsing. In some cases, the venom can even cause blistering, tissue death, and secondary infections if not treated properly. While a sting is rarely fatal, it's definitely not something you can just walk off. People stung by lionfish often report difficulty moving the affected limb because of the pain and swelling. And here's a bonus unpleasant fact. Lionfish can sting multiple times if you're unlucky enough to keep brushing against those spines. So one encounter can turn into several injections of venom very quickly. Lionfish are native to the Indo-Pacific, but they've become an invasive species in the Atlantic and Caribbean, where they're wreaking havoc on local reef ecosystems. They have no natural predators in those regions, which means their populations have exploded, and divers see them more and more often. This makes stings more common, not because lionfish are aggressive, they're not, but because curious swimmers sometimes get too close trying to take photos or even catch them. If you do get stung, the standard treatment is to immerse the wound in hot water, as hot as you can safely tolerate, because the heat helps break down the venom proteins and reduce the pain. Doctors may also prescribe antibiotics if there's risk of infection. The pain usually subsides after a few hours, but the swelling and tenderness can last for a couple of days, serving as a very clear reminder to give these fish plenty of space. Despite their painful sting, lionfish are actually edible. And in many invaded areas, people are encouraged to catch and eat them to help control their population. But handling them takes serious care.
Even dead lionfish can sting until the spines are properly removed. So if you see one on a reef, admire it from a safe distance. Its beauty is mesmerizing, but getting too close could leave you with a hand that feels like it's been lit on fire.
Crown-of-Thorns Starfish. When you picture a starfish, you probably think of a cute little five-armed sea creature sitting peacefully in a tide pool. The crown-of-thorns starfish, however, looks like it came straight out of an alien invasion movie. This thing can grow up to 3 feet across and has between 7 and 23 arms, all covered in long, sharp, venomous spines. It's spiky, intimidating, and definitely not the kind of starfish you'd want to pick up. The spines are hollow and connected to venom glands, which means they don't just poke you, they inject venom at the same time. If you step on one or handle it carelessly, you'll feel an immediate stabbing pain, followed by a deep, burning sensation that can last for hours. Victims often report swelling, redness, and throbbing that doesn't go away quickly. In more severe cases, the venom can cause nausea, vomiting, and even temporary paralysis of the limb that was stung. And here's the kicker. Those spines are brittle, which means they can break off and get lodged in your skin, continuing to release venom and causing pain long after the initial sting. Sometimes they have to be removed surgically if they're buried too deep. Basically, it's the kind of injury that just keeps on giving. The crown-of-thorns starfish is native to coral reefs in the Indo-Pacific, and while it's an important part of the reef ecosystem, it's also known as one of the most destructive predators of coral. During population outbreaks, these starfish can wipe out huge sections of reef by eating massive amounts of coral polyps. Divers working to control outbreaks sometimes have to handle them, and yes, they get stung if they're not careful. It's considered an occupational hazard. Because the pain can be so severe and persistent, first aid usually involves soaking the affected area in hot water to help break down the venom and carefully removing any spine fragments with tweezers. But even after treatment, it can take days for the pain and swelling to fully disappear. Some people even report joint pain and stiffness that lasts for weeks. So while starfish usually get a reputation as one of the gentler creatures of the ocean, the crown-of-thorns is definitely the exception. It's spiky, venomous, and capable of turning a casual snorkeling trip into an urgent medical problem. If you see one of these massive spiky starfish on a reef, admire it from a safe distance and keep your hands and especially your feet far away.
Blue-ringed octopus. At first glance, the blue-ringed octopus looks like the cutest little thing in the tide pool. It's tiny, small enough to fit in the palm of your hand, and usually a pale yellow-brown color, quietly minding its business. But when it feels threatened, something incredible happens. Bright electric blue rings flash all over its body like neon warning signs. And if you don't take the hint, this tiny creature has a bite that can kill you. The blue-ringed octopus is found in shallow waters across Australia and Southeast Asia, hiding under rocks or in shells. It's not aggressive. Most bites happen when someone accidentally picks one up or steps too close. The bite itself is so small and painless that some victims don't even notice it at first. But within minutes, the venom starts to take effect, and that's when things get terrifying. The venom contains tetrodotoxin, one of the most potent neurotoxins known to science. It works by blocking the signals between nerves and muscles, which means your body starts shutting down piece by piece. First comes tingling around the mouth or at the bite site, then muscle weakness, then full body paralysis. Victims often remain fully conscious while their body stops cooperating, including the muscles that control breathing. It's like being locked inside your own body while struggling to breathe, which is about as scary as it sounds. And here's the kicker. There's no antivenom. The only treatment is supportive care, basically keeping the person alive with artificial respiration until the toxin wears off, which can take hours. If help isn't nearby, the bite can be fatal. Despite its small size, this octopus can carry enough venom to kill more than 20 adult humans. But, as deadly as it is, the blue-ringed octopus doesn't want to hurt you. Those glowing blue rings are meant as a last-ditch warning display, saying, "I'm toxic, back off." Most people who get bitten were handling it without realizing what it was. Divers and snorkelers are always told to look but not touch, because this little guy is basically the ocean's definition of look, don't touch. There's something eerie about the combination of a painless bite and a devastating effect. You don't get the usual warning pain that tells you something is wrong. You just slowly lose control of your body. It's no wonder the blue-ringed octopus is considered one of the most dangerous animals in the sea, despite being so tiny. If you ever see one flashing its beautiful blue rings, admire it from a very safe distance.
Stingrays. Stingrays usually get a reputation as the chill, pancake-shaped gliders of the ocean. They spend their days cruising just above the sandy seafloor, looking graceful and harmless, and most of the time they are harmless, unless you accidentally step on one. That's when this peaceful-looking creature suddenly turns into a source of some of the worst pain you can experience underwater. Stingrays have a long, whip-like tail, and near the base of that tail is a sharp, serrated spine, sometimes more than one, that they use for defense. When threatened, a stingray whips its tail upward like a spring-loaded trap, driving the spine into whatever stepped too close. The spine isn't just sharp, it's barbed, which means it tears through flesh on the way in and on the way out. And just to make things extra memorable, the spine is coated in venom. Victims describe the pain as immediate and excruciating, like being stabbed with a jagged piece of glass that's on fire. The wound often bleeds heavily, swells rapidly, and keeps throbbing long after the stingray has swum away. In some cases, pieces of the spine break off and get lodged in the wound, which can cause infection and keep the pain going for days. And because the venom causes muscle cramps and tissue damage, the area can remain sore and tender for weeks. Most stingray injuries happen in shallow water, when someone accidentally steps on a ray that was buried in the sand. The good news is that stingrays aren't aggressive. They're just defending themselves. Divers and beachgoers use what's called the stingray shuffle, sliding their feet through the sand instead of taking big steps. to give the rays a chance to swim away before anyone steps directly on them. Treatment for a stingray injury usually starts with immersing the wound in hot water to help neutralize the venom and reduce the pain. Doctors will also clean out any fragments of spine and check for tissue damage. Serious injuries, like when the barb hits the chest or abdomen, can be life-threatening, which is why medical attention is always recommended after a sting. One of the most famous stingray encounters was the tragic death of wildlife expert Steve Irwin, who was struck in the chest by a stingray barb. It was a rare, freak accident, but it shows just how powerful these animals' defenses can be when something goes wrong. So while stingrays are usually peaceful, docile creatures, they deserve respect. Give them space. Shuffle your feet when wading in sandy areas, and remember that their tail is basically a built-in spear. They won't come after you, but if you surprise one, you'll never forget the pain it can deliver.
Meet the Weever Fish, the little sand-dwelling monster that has turned many a sunny beach day into an ambulance ride. These fish aren't big or flashy. In fact, they're experts at hiding. They bury themselves in the sand in shallow waters, leaving just their eyes and the top of their spiny dorsal fin sticking out, which is exactly why people end up stepping on them and regretting it instantly. The Weever fish's dorsal fin is lined with venomous spines, and when you step on one barefoot, those spines drive straight into your foot and inject venom. The pain is immediate, electric, and so severe that victims have been known to scream, cry, and no exaggeration, beg doctors to amputate the limb just to make it stop. It's that bad. People describe it as a burning, drilling agony that spreads up the leg, sometimes all the way to the groin. The symptoms don't stop at pain. The venom can cause swelling, blistering, numbness, and even systemic symptoms like nausea, sweating, and fainting. In rare cases, untreated stings have led to gangrene or permanent tissue damage. And just to make matters worse, the pain can last for hours, and the wound can stay tender for days afterward, making it difficult to walk. Because these fish like to hang out in shallow waters near beaches, swimmers, surfers, and waders are their most common victims. The first aid protocol is to immerse the affected foot or leg in water as hot as the victim can tolerate, usually for 30 to 90 minutes. The heat helps break down the venom proteins and bring some relief from the pain. Without hot water treatment, the pain can remain absolutely brutal. The Weever fish is found in European waters, particularly around the UK and Mediterranean, which means a lot of unsuspecting vacationers have met them the hard way. Some beaches even post warning signs during the summer months when the risk is highest. Locals often wear water shoes or sandals when wading in the shallows just to avoid a painful surprise. Interestingly, the Weever fish isn't out to get you. It's not aggressive and doesn't go after swimmers.
It's just a predator lying in wait for small fish and crustaceans, and your foot stepping on it triggers its defensive response. Unfortunately, its defense system is so intense that it's often ranked as one of the most painful marine stings in the world. So next time you're walking barefoot along a sandy European beach, shuffle your feet as you go. Not because you're worried about stingrays, but because this little sand-dwelling fish could be hiding right under you, ready to deliver a sting you will never forget.
Rabbitfish. Most people think of rabbitfish as the cute little herbivores of the reef, nibbling on algae and minding their business. They're even sometimes kept in aquariums because of their bright colors and peaceful behavior. But here's the secret most snorkelers and casual divers don't know. Rabbitfish have venomous spines, and if you happen to brush against one the wrong way, you're in for a world of hurt. Rabbitfish are found in warm, shallow waters across the Indo-Pacific, and they're usually seen in pairs or small groups grazing along coral reefs. They have sharp needle-like spines along their dorsal and anal fins, which are connected to venom glands. When they feel threatened, they flare those fins and lock the spines in place like tiny switchblades. If one of those spines punctures your skin, it delivers a dose of venom that causes intense, throbbing pain that can last for hours. The pain is often described as surprisingly bad for such a small fish, a sharp, burning ache that radiates outward from the wound. The area swells, turns red, and becomes extremely tender to the touch. In some cases, people also experience nausea, dizziness, or muscle cramps. And just like with lionfish or weaver fish stings, the recommended first aid is to soak the wound in hot water to break down the venom proteins and get some relief. The thing about rabbitfish is that they don't look threatening at all. They're colorful with big, innocent-looking eyes, hence the name rabbitfish. Because of that, many divers underestimate them or try to shoo them away with their hands, only to get a nasty surprise when they get spined. The venom isn't usually life-threatening, but it's painful enough to completely ruin a dive trip and keep you out of the water for the rest of the day. What makes them tricky is that they're actually quite shy. They don't attack or chase people. The vast majority of stings happen when someone accidentally brushes against them while swimming or handling them. Fishermen sometimes get stung while removing them from nets, and because the spines can pierce gloves, they're a known occupational hazard. Like with other venomous reef fish, the safest move is just to give rabbitfish some space. They're not out to get you. They just want to graze on algae and stay out of trouble. But if you corner them or grab them, you're likely to find out the hard way that these gentle vegetarians are packing some serious defense mechanisms. So next time you're admiring the reef and see a cute little rabbitfish munching away on algae, resist the urge to get too close, because what looks like a calm, friendly reef fish is actually armed with tiny venom-tipped spines that will leave you hopping around in pain.
Catfish spines are usually thought of as the friendly bottom feeders of rivers and lakes, hanging out in the mud and minding their own business. People catch them for sport, eat them fried with hush puppies, and generally think of them as harmless. But ask any fisherman who's been stung by one, and they'll tell you a very different story. Those cute whiskered faces are hiding some seriously painful weapons.
Most catfish species have sharp, stiff spines on their dorsal or top and pectoral or side fins. These spines are coated in mucus that contains venom, not enough to kill you, but definitely enough to make you yell a few creative words. When a catfish feels threatened, it can lock those spines into place, turning them into little spears. If you accidentally grab the fish the wrong way or step on one in shallow water, those spines can puncture skin deep enough to inject venom. The pain is immediate and sharp, like being stabbed with a hot nail, followed by a throbbing, burning sensation that spreads from the wound. Victims often describe swelling, redness, and intense tenderness that can last for hours. In more serious cases, the puncture can become infected or lead to tissue damage if pieces of the spine break off inside the wound. Some unlucky folks also experience numbness, muscle cramps, or nausea as their body reacts to the venom. This happens so often to anglers that it's practically a rite of passage in some fishing communities. The first time someone gets finned by a catfish, they learn the hard way why everyone keeps saying, "Hold it by the mouth, not the sides." Fishermen will tell you to run the wound under hot water as soon as possible, because heat helps break down the venom proteins and take the edge off the pain. Cleaning the wound carefully is also crucial. Infections from catfish spines can be nasty. And here's a fun or not so fun fact. In some tropical regions, certain catfish species can deliver venom so strong it sends victims to the hospital. In rare cases, the pain is so bad that people faint or vomit from the intensity. Even in less venomous species, the sheer mechanical damage of those spines can make for a slow-healing injury that stays sore for days. Despite the horror stories, catfish aren't aggressive. They don't go out of their way to sting anyone. Most injuries happen during handling, when someone grabs the fish without pinning the fins properly, or while wading barefoot in murky water. With the right grip, or a pair of gloves, you can avoid most stings completely. So next time you're fishing or wading in a catfish hotspot, remember, those whiskers might look friendly, but the fins mean business. Treat catfish with respect, handle them carefully, and you won't have to explain to your friends why your hand feels like it's been set on fire.
Gila Monster. When it comes to venomous lizards, the Gila Monster is basically the desert's slow, grumpy warning sign. Its stocky, black and orange beaded skin makes it look like a living piece of jewelry. But this is not a creature you want to get too close to. Found in the deserts of the southwestern United States and northern Mexico, the Gila Monster is one of only 2 venomous lizards in the world, and it's famous for its bite. Unlike snakes, which deliver venom with hollow fangs, the Gila Monster uses grooves in its teeth to channel venom from glands in its lower jaw. And it doesn't just nip you and run. It hangs on. When a Gila Monster bites, it claps down and chews, working the venom deeper into the wound. People who've been bitten say the pain builds rapidly, becoming an intense, burning agony that radiates up the limb. Swelling, dizziness, and nausea often follow, and the whole thing can last for hours. What makes this worse is that the Gila Monster is famously reluctant to let go.
Some bite victims have had to literally pry the lizard off. And this is a strong animal with a stubborn jaw grip. The combination of the mechanical damage from the chewing and the burning venom makes it an experience you never forget. The good news? Gila Monster venom is rarely fatal to humans. It's designed to subdue small prey like rodents and birds, not take down something the size of a person. But it will absolutely ruin your day. The swelling can last for hours, the pain can throb well into the next morning, and you might feel weak, sweaty, and lightheaded until the venom clears your system. Interestingly, the venom contains some compounds that have turned out to be medically useful. Scientists discovered a hormone in Gila Monster saliva that led to the development of a drug for type 2 diabetes called exenatide. So, in a strange twist, this desert lizard's painful bite has actually helped millions of people manage blood sugar levels. Talk about a weird silver lining. It's also worth noting that Gila monsters aren't out there looking for trouble. They're slow-moving, reclusive lizards that spend most of their time in burrows, coming out mainly to eat or bask in the sun. Most bites happen when someone tries to handle or harass them, so basically it's a human mistake. The best advice is simple. Admire them from a safe distance and let them go about their business. Because if you get too close, you might end up with a painful desert souvenir.
Mexican Beaded Lizard. If the Gila monster is the desert's venomous celebrity, the Mexican beaded lizard is its slightly bigger, equally grumpy cousin. This lizard lives in the dry forests and scrublands of western Mexico and parts of Guatemala, and just like the Gila monster, it comes with a bite you'll never forget. In fact, some herpetologists argue the beaded lizard is even more venomous than its American cousin, though thankfully it's just as reclusive. The Mexican beaded lizard is a hefty creature, growing up to 3 feet long with black bead-like scales patterned with bands of yellow or cream. It looks like a living piece of Aztec art. But inside that pretty package is a venom delivery system that works the same way as the Gila monsters. Grooves in its teeth carry venom from glands in the lower jaw straight into whatever it's chewing on. And yes, chewing is the key word here. This lizard doesn't strike and release. It bites, locks on, and grinds those teeth in like it's trying to make a point. The result? Pain. Lots of pain. People who have been bitten describe an immediate searing sensation that just keeps building the longer the lizard hangs on. The bite site swells, turns red, and throbs with burning intensity. Some victims report sweating, dizziness, and weakness spreading through the body, and the pain can last for hours after the lizard finally lets go. In severe cases, blood pressure can drop, leading to fainting. The good news is that just like the Gila monster, the Mexican beaded lizard's bite is rarely fatal to humans. Its venom is designed to subdue small prey like birds, eggs, and mammals, not to kill something as big as a person. But it's strong enough to make you wish you'd stayed far, far away. Interestingly, the venom of both the Gila monster and the beaded lizard is being studied by scientists for its medical potential. Some of the compounds have shown promise for treating pain and regulating insulin levels, So, in a way, this lizard is another example of nature giving us something terrifying and also potentially life-saving. But here's the good news if you're worried about bumping into one. Mexican beaded lizards are shy and spend most of their lives in underground burrows, coming out mainly at night or during the rainy season. They aren't aggressive toward humans unless they're handled or provoked. So if you ever come across one in the wild, the safest thing to do is simply admire it from a distance and resist the urge to see if you can pick it up. Because if you do, you'll be getting a painful biology lesson you definitely didn't sign up for.
Komodo Dragon. The Komodo dragon is the heavyweight champion of the lizard world. Literally. Growing up to 10 feet long and weighing more than 150 pounds, this is the closest thing we have to a real-life dinosaur. And while they look like slow, lumbering giants, they're apex predators with a bite that's way nastier than it looks. For years, scientists debated whether Komodo dragons were venomous or just relied on bacteria in their mouths to kill prey. The verdict? They are venomous, and their bite is one of the most fascinating in the animal kingdom. Here's how it works. When a Komodo dragon bites, it doesn't just tear flesh, though it does that very well with its serrated teeth. Its saliva also contains anticoagulants and toxins that prevent blood from clotting, lower blood pressure, and cause shock. Basically, the bite turns the wound into a freely bleeding, painful mess that weakens the victim over time. In the wild, this is a brilliant hunting strategy. The dragon bites a water buffalo, lets it stagger away bleeding and poisoned, then tracks it for hours or even days until it collapses from blood loss or shock. Dinner is served. For humans, a Komodo dragon bite is a medical emergency. The immediate pain is intense, as you'd expect from a mouthful of teeth designed to saw through flesh. The wound bleeds heavily and can keep bleeding because of those anticoagulants. Victims often report throbbing pain, swelling, dizziness, and even fainting. Without quick medical attention, the wound can become infected and blood loss can be severe. What makes Komodo dragons even scarier is how they deliver this bite. They can sprint in short bursts, knocking prey off their feet with their muscular tails before delivering that nasty bite. And once they've latched on, they'll thrash and rip until they've taken a big chunk out of whatever they're attacking. They're not picky eaters either. They'll go after deer, wild pigs, water buffalo, and yes, they've even been known to attack humans in rare cases. Despite how terrifying all this sounds, Komodo dragons aren't mindless killers. Most of the time, they avoid humans, and attacks are rare. But they are powerful, intelligent predators, and they can be surprisingly stealthy for such huge reptiles. People living on the islands where they're found are taught to keep their distance and to never leave food or trash around, since that can attract them. Fun fact: studying Komodo dragon venom has helped scientists better understand how blood clotting works and may even lead to new blood-thinning drugs in the future. So once again, one of nature's scariest predators might end up saving lives. Still, if you ever find yourself on Komodo Island, the rule is simple. Admire them from a safe distance. Because up close, you might find out exactly why this bite has been giving prey animals nightmares for millions of years.
Spitting cobras.
Cobras are already pretty high on the list of scary snakes, but spitting cobras take it to a whole new level. These snakes don't even have to bite you to mess up your day. They can literally shoot their venom straight at your face like some kind of reptilian sniper. If you've ever thought you were safe just by standing a few feet away from a snake, a spitting cobra would like to remind you, nope. Spitting cobras are found in Africa and parts of Asia, and they look a lot like other cobras, long, slender, and capable of that famous hood flare. But when threatened, instead of just striking, they rear back, aim, and fire a stream of venom right at the eyes of whatever is bothering them. And they are accurate. Some species can spit venom over 6 feet away, hitting a target dead on. If it hits your skin, you'll feel a stinging, burning sensation, but if it hits your eyes, that's when things get really nasty. The venom acts like acid in the eyes, causing instant, searing pain, tearing, and swelling. Victims often can't keep their eyes open because the pain is so intense, which is exactly what the snake wants. It's a defense mechanism designed to blind predators long enough for the cobra to escape. If the venom isn't washed out quickly, it can even cause permanent damage, including blindness. And that's before we even talk about what happens if the snake decides to bite. Because yes, spitting cobras still have a potent neurotoxic bite that can cause paralysis and even death if untreated. Imagine being on safari or hiking through the bush, spotting a cobra from a distance, and suddenly getting a faceful of venom. Victims have described the pain as feeling like someone poured fire directly into their eyes. The good news is that prompt flushing with water or saline can usually prevent long-term damage, but the experience is so intense that most people are left completely disoriented. Spitting cobras don't spit venom at random. They usually give plenty of warning first, raising their hoods and hissing loudly. That's your signal to back up slowly and give them space. They're not out looking for humans to blind. They just don't want to be messed with. If you ignore those warnings, well, you might find yourself temporarily out of commission, crawling around with burning eyes while the cobra slips away. So while most venomous snakes are scary because of their bites, spitting cobras add an extra layer of nightmare fuel by attacking from a distance. They're living proof that in nature, keeping your distance doesn't always mean you're safe, especially if the thing you're staring at can aim for your face.
Black Mamba. If snakes had a final boss, the Black Mamba would be it. This snake is legendary, fast, deadly, and smart. And it carries one of the most potent neurotoxic venoms on the planet. Found in sub-Saharan Africa, black mambas are sleek, long snakes that can grow up to 14 feet, making them one of the longest venomous snakes in the world. Despite the name, they're not actually black on the outside. Their scales are gray or olive. But the inside of their mouth is pitch black, which is exactly what you'll see if one decides you've gotten too close. The bite of a black mamba is terrifying not just because of the speed, they can strike multiple times in quick succession, but because of how quickly the venom starts working. At first, there may just be mild pain or tingling at the bite site, almost disappointingly subtle compared to the danger level.
But within minutes, the neurotoxins get to work, shutting down the signals between your nerves and muscles. Victims start feeling weakness, dizziness, difficulty breathing, and a creeping sense of dread as paralysis begins to set in. The pain doesn't stay mild for long. It escalates as the venom spreads, turning into a deep, throbbing ache that radiates through the limb. Meanwhile, the venom is silently shutting down your diaphragm and chest muscles. Without antivenom and respiratory support, a black mamba bite can kill an adult human in under 30 minutes. It's one of the fastest-acting snake venoms on Earth, which is why locals respect this snake like no other. And if the venom wasn't scary enough, black mambas are also famously fast and agile. They can move at speeds up to 12 miles per hour, which means if they feel cornered, they can close the distance fast. Their reputation as aggressive snakes is a little exaggerated. They prefer to flee if given the chance. But if they feel threatened, they will stand their ground, raise the front third of their body off the ground, spread a narrow hood, and deliver multiple lightning-fast strikes. Fortunately, antivenom has made black mamba bites far less fatal than they used to be. In places where good medical care is available, survival rates are much higher today. But in rural areas far from hospitals, the black mamba is still considered one of the most feared animals on the continent. This snake is basically nature's way of saying, respect the wild. It's not out to get you, but if you surprise one, the combination of speed, precision, and almost instant shutdown of your nervous system makes it one of the most formidable predators on the planet.
King Cobra. When it comes to snakes with serious star power, the King Cobra reigns supreme, literally. This is the largest venomous snake in the world, capable of growing over 18 feet long, which means when it rears up, it can look you straight in the eye. And if that isn't enough to make your heart skip a beat, its bite delivers enough venom to drop an elephant. The king cobra's venom is primarily neurotoxic, which means it attacks your nervous system, shutting down the signals between your brain and your muscles. The bite itself is intensely painful, a stabbing, burning agony, and the effects spread fast. Victims report searing pain radiating from the bite site, followed by dizziness, slurred speech, and muscle weakness as the venom takes hold. Without treatment, paralysis sets in, and eventually the diaphragm stops working, leading to respiratory failure. But here's what makes the king cobra especially dangerous: the amount of venom it injects. A single strike can deliver enough venom to kill 20 people. And unlike some snakes that give quick defensive bites, the king cobra will actually hang on and chew, pumping even more venom into the wound. It's not just a quick sting, it's a full-on chemical assault. The speed of symptom onset is terrifying. Pain and swelling come first, then systemic effects, drooping eyelids, slurred speech, muscle twitching, and severe abdominal pain. Victims can collapse within 30 minutes if they don't get antivenom and medical support. Even if they survive, the pain can linger for days, and the tissue around the bite can take weeks to fully heal. Despite its fearsome reputation, the king cobra isn't out there hunting humans. It mostly preys on other snakes. Yes, it's a snake that eats snakes.
and will generally avoid people if given the chance. But when it feels cornered, it becomes incredibly intimidating. It raises a third of its body off the ground, spreads its massive hood, and hisses so loudly it sounds like a growl. It's basically the reptile world's version of shouting, "Back off!" One of the coolest things about the king cobra is that it's also one of the few snakes known to build a nest. The female actually piles up leaves to make a mound for her eggs and guards them until they hatch. Pretty rare behavior for reptiles. So while it's one of the deadliest snakes alive, it's also one of the most devoted reptile parents. If you're ever in king cobra territory, India, Southeast Asia, parts of Indonesia, the rule is simple. Give it space. This snake commands respect, and not just because of its size. Its venom floods your system with agony, and without fast treatment, it can be game over in a matter of hours.
Russell's Viper. If there's one snake across Asia that farmers live in fear of, it's Russell's Viper. This chunky brown and tan viper may not look as sleek as a cobra or as massive as a python, but it has a bite that's both excruciatingly painful and medically devastating. Found across India, Southeast Asia, and parts of China, Russell's viper is one of the big four snakes responsible for the majority of serious snake bites in Asia, and for good reason. The bite of a Russell's viper is brutally painful right from the start. Victims report an immediate, deep, burning sensation as the fangs punch in, followed by rapid swelling that can make the entire limb balloon. The venom is hemotoxic, which means it attacks blood and tissue, destroying cells, damaging blood vessels, and causing massive internal bleeding. It also interferes with the body's ability to clot blood properly. In some cases, the venom can cause blood to clot too much, leading to dangerous blockages. And in others, it prevents clotting entirely, causing uncontrolled bleeding. Within hours of a serious bite, the bite site can start to turn black as tissue dies, a process called necrosis. This can lead to permanent scarring or even the need for amputation if not treated quickly. Victims may also experience blistering, nausea, abdominal pain, dizziness, and in severe cases, kidney failure due to the breakdown of muscle tissue flooding the kidneys with toxins. And here's the really scary part. Russell's vipers are often found in fields, near human settlements, and in rice paddies, which means encounters with people are common. They're not particularly shy snakes, and when threatened, they produce a loud, continuous hiss that sounds like a pressure cooker venting steam. It's a warning, but if you ignore it or accidentally step too close, this viper will strike hard and fast. Fortunately, anti-venom is widely available in areas where Russell's viper bites are common, and with prompt treatment, survival rates are much higher today than they used to be. But even survivors can face long-term complications like chronic pain, kidney problems, or disfiguring scars from the tissue damage. Despite their scary reputation, Russell's vipers aren't out to get humans. They're just trying to protect themselves. Most bites happen because someone accidentally steps on one while working in the fields or walking barefoot at night.
This is why snakebite prevention campaigns in Asia emphasize wearing boots and carrying lights when walking after dark. So if you're ever in Russell's viper country and hear a loud, angry hiss in the grass, take it seriously and back away. This isn't just another snake encounter. This is one of the most painful and medically dangerous bites on the planet, and it's one you definitely want to avoid.
Saw-scaled viper. When herpetologists talk about the world's most dangerous snakes, they don't always mean the biggest or the scariest looking. Sometimes the deadliest snake is small, dusty, and easy to miss, like the saw-scaled viper. This little snake, rarely more than 2 or 3 feet long, is responsible for more human deaths each year than any other snake on Earth. Why? Because it's common, it's quick, and its venom is both excruciating and medically devastating. The saw-scaled viper gets its name from the unique scales along its sides that make a rasping, saw-like sound when the snake rubs them together as a warning. Imagine standing in the dark and hearing that dry sandpaper hiss from somewhere nearby. It's enough to make your blood run cold. And if you ignore that sound and get too close, this viper doesn't hesitate to strike. The bite is instantly painful, a deep, burning, tearing pain that feels like the flesh itself is being shredded. Swelling follows fast, and within hours the venom's effects go systemic. The saw-scaled viper's venom is hemotoxic, meaning it attacks blood and tissues, causing massive internal bleeding, clotting disorders, and sometimes full-blown organ failure. Victims can bleed from the gums, nose, and even through the skin, and untreated bites can be fatal in less than 24 hours. What makes this snake so deadly isn't just the toxicity of the venom, though that's bad enough. It's the fact that it lives close to where people live. Found across Africa, the Middle East, India, and parts of Asia, saw-scaled vipers thrive in agricultural areas, villages, and dry scrublands where people walk barefoot or work in fields. That means bites are common, and without quick access to antivenom, survival can be a coin toss. Despite its reputation, the saw-scaled viper is tiny compared to giants like king cobras or black mambas, but it's quick, lightning quick. It can strike multiple times in a second, delivering a potent dose of venom each time. And because it's so small and camouflaged, many bites happen when someone accidentally steps on one at night. The good news is that antivenom exists and is highly effective when given quickly. In areas where medical care is available, death rates are much lower than they used to be. But the pain, swelling, and potential tissue damage can still leave victims with lifelong scars, both physical and psychological. So if you ever find yourself walking barefoot in the warm, dusty regions where saw-scaled vipers live, listen carefully. That faint, rasping hiss might just be your only warning. And trust me, you'll want to hear it before you feel it.
Fer-de-lance. If you ever hear locals in Central or South America talking about terciopelo or fer-de-lance, pay attention. This is one snake you do not want to meet. The fer-de-lance is a pit viper with a reputation for being one of the most dangerous snakes in the Americas. It's big, it's fast, and it packs a venom that's basically liquid horror for your tissues. The bite of a fer-de-lance is instantly painful. Victims describe a deep, stabbing pain, followed by burning that spreads like wildfire through the limb. The venom is hemotoxic, meaning it attacks blood and tissues, and it starts working almost immediately. Within minutes, the area around the bite begins to swell, sometimes so dramatically that the skin feels like it's going to burst. Blistering and bruising follow, and soon the tissue begins to die, turning black and breaking down in a process called necrosis. If left untreated, a fer-de-lance bite can destroy so much tissue that amputation becomes the only option. Even with treatment, survivors are often left with permanent scarring or disfigurement. And that's just the local damage. Systemically, the venom can cause severe internal bleeding, vomiting, low blood pressure, and in some cases, death. What makes this snake particularly dangerous is its combination of size, speed, and attitude. Adult fer-de-lance can grow over 6 feet long, and they're known to be more defensive than many other vipers. When threatened, they can strike with shocking speed, and they don't just deliver a quick tap. They hold on, pumping venom deep into the bite. In rural areas of Central and South America, they're one of the leading causes of snakebite incidents. Farmers and field workers are at the highest risk, since fer-de-lance snakes often live in plantations, pastures, and forest edges where humans are likely to cross paths with them. Most bites happen when someone accidentally steps too close or disturbs a snake hidden in leaf litter. Their natural camouflage makes them almost invisible until it's too late. The good news is that anti-venom is widely available in most of their range, and when given quickly, it can save lives and reduce the severity of the tissue damage. But time is critical. The longer the venom has to work, the worse the outcome. First aid usually involves immobilizing the limb and getting to medical help as fast as possible. The fer-de-lance is a perfect example of why snakes are so respected, even feared, in the regions they inhabit. It's not a villain by nature, just an animal defending itself. But if you're unlucky enough to be bitten, the pain, swelling, and potential loss of limb will make sure you never forget the encounter.
Bushmaster Snake. If the fer-de-lance is the feared pit viper of Central and South America, the Bushmaster is its legendary big brother, and it's an absolute giant. This snake holds the title of the largest pit viper in the world, sometimes growing over 10 feet long. Just picture that, a viper as long as a small car, coiled up in the leaf litter, perfectly camouflaged, waiting for you to get too close. The Bushmaster's fangs are impressive all by themselves. They can measure up to 2 inches long, which means they can easily punch through thick boots or pants. And when they deliver a bite, they inject a huge volume of venom, much more than smaller vipers. That venom is hemotoxic and proteolytic,
meaning it not only destroys blood cells and tissues, but also causes intense pain, swelling, and bleeding that can last for days. Victims described the bite pain as deep, throbbing, and relentless, like a pulsing fire spreading up the limb. The swelling can become extreme, sometimes doubling the size of the bitten area, and the venom's clotting effects can lead to dangerous internal bleeding. Severe envenomations can cause shock, vomiting, severe low blood pressure, and even death if treatment isn't started quickly. Despite its fearsome size, the Bushmaster is actually pretty shy compared to some other vipers. It prefers to avoid humans and will usually slip away silently rather than strike. But if it's cornered, startled, or stepped on, it can strike multiple times in rapid succession, and with fangs that long, it doesn't miss often. Bushmasters are mostly nocturnal and live deep in tropical rainforests from Central America down into South America. This means encounters with humans aren't as frequent as with Fer-de-lance, but when they do happen, they're memorable. Locals and herpetologists treat Bushmasters with huge respect because of how much venom they can deliver in a single bite, enough to kill several grown men. Antivenom is available in most regions where Bushmasters live, but as with most venomous snakes, time is everything. The faster a bite victim gets to a hospital and receives treatment, the better their chance of survival and avoiding severe tissue damage. Even with treatment, recovery can take weeks, and the pain can linger long after the swelling goes down. What makes the Bushmaster so fascinating is that it's almost like the apex predator of vipers, massive, powerful, and armed with some of the longest fangs in the snake world. It's a snake you're unlikely to see unless you go deep into the rainforest, but knowing it's out there is enough to give anyone a little shiver when they hear leaves rustle underfoot. Boomslang. The boomslang might not look like a nightmare snake at first glance. In fact, it's kind of beautiful. This slender green or brown tree snake from sub-Saharan Africa has huge, wide-set eyes and a calm, curious look that makes it seem almost gentle. But don't be fooled. This snake carries one of the most potent venoms in the world, and its venom doesn't just hurt. It turns your own blood into a weapon against you. The boomslang's venom is hemotoxic, meaning it attacks your blood and blood vessels. When this snake bites, it injects venom that causes your blood to stop clotting properly. At first, there's often very little pain or swelling, which is almost worse. You might think it's just a small nip, but over the next few hours, things take a turn for the horrifying. Victims begin to bleed not just from the bite wound, but sometimes from the gums, nose, even the eyes. Internal bleeding can start silently, causing severe abdominal pain and organ damage. The agony isn't just from the bite site. It's from the slow, grinding pain of your body literally leaking blood where it shouldn't. Bruising spreads across the skin, the abdomen can swell with blood, and the victim can suffer headaches, dizziness, and vomiting. Without treatment, death can come from massive internal hemorrhage. And to make it more unnerving, symptoms can be delayed, sometimes taking hours to fully appear, which means people who ignore a boomslang bite, thinking it was just a small dip, can be in serious trouble by the time they reach a hospital. The good news is that boomslangs are actually shy snakes and very reluctant to bite humans. They spend most of their time in trees, hunting birds, eggs, and small reptiles. Most bites happen to herpetologists or people who try to handle the snake. But when they do bite, they deliver a lot of venom, thanks to their large rear fangs and ability to open their mouths nearly 170 degrees, practically unhinging their jaws to sink those fangs deep. Anti-venom exists and is highly effective when given early, but because boomslang bites are relatively rare, it's not always stocked at every rural clinic. That makes fast transport to proper medical care critical. Survivors often take weeks to fully recover, and some report lingering joint pain and fatigue long after the bleeding has stopped. The boomslang is a perfect reminder that danger doesn't always come with flashing warning colors or hissing threats. Sometimes it comes in the form of a quiet, graceful tree snake that just happens to have a venom that can turn your insides into a slow-motion disaster.
Coral snake. Few snakes are as eye-catching or as dangerous as the coral snake. With its bright red, yellow, and black bands, it looks almost like it's dressed for a party. But those colors are actually a huge warning sign. This is one of the most venomous snakes in North and South America. And its venom doesn't just hurt. It goes after your nervous system like a hacker taking down a power grid. Coral snake venom is primarily neurotoxic, which means it blocks the communication between your nerves and muscles. The bite can be surprisingly small and painless, which is part of what makes coral snakes so dangerous. You might barely notice the fang marks at first, but within a few hours, things start to go very wrong. Victims can experience pain radiating from the bite, followed by muscle weakness, difficulty speaking or swallowing, and eventually paralysis that spreads through the body. This paralysis isn't just inconvenient, it's life-threatening. If it reaches the diaphragm, the muscle that lets you breathe, you can suffocate unless you get medical help. Victims often report a creeping sense of dread as they feel their bodies slowly shutting down while staying fully conscious. It's a terrifying experience, like being trapped inside a body that no longer works. The good news? Coral snakes are actually pretty shy and reclusive. They spend most of their time underground or hiding under leaf litter, coming out mainly at night or after heavy rain. Bites are rare, and most happen when someone accidentally steps on one or picks it up, mistaking it for one of its many non-venomous lookalikes. Speaking of lookalikes, here's where things get fun. Harmless snakes like the milk snake or scarlet king snake mimic the coral snake's colors as a form of protection. That's why people came up with the famous rhyme, "Red touches yellow, kill a fellow. Red touches black, friend of Jack." It's a quick way to tell the deadly coral snake apart from its harmless copycats. At least in North America. In South America, the rhyme doesn't always work. So, maybe just don't pick up striped snakes at all. If you do get bitten by a coral snake, it's a race against time. There is anti-venom, but it needs to be administered quickly, and the supply is limited in some regions. Early treatment can prevent the worst outcomes, but without it, respiratory failure is a very real risk. So, while coral snakes might be small and beautiful, they're not the kind of snake you want to mess with.
Those bright bands are nature's version of a hazard sign. Take the hint and back away. Because this little snake has enough neurotoxin to turn your nervous system off like a light switch.
Rattlesnakes. When most people think of rattlesnakes, they picture that signature tail rattle, the desert's warning alarm. And no rattlesnake is more iconic than the eastern diamondback. This is the heavyweight of rattlesnakes, the largest species in North America, sometimes stretching over 7 feet long. With its thick, muscular body covered in bold diamond-shaped patterns, it's a snake that commands respect, and its bite will absolutely make sure you learn that lesson fast. The bite of an eastern diamondback is not subtle. First comes the sharp, stabbing pain as those long fangs puncture the skin, followed quickly by intense, throbbing agony. Within minutes, the bitten limb starts to swell, sometimes dramatically, as the venom spreads. The venom is hemotoxic, which means it destroys blood cells and tissue, breaks down blood vessels, and disrupts clotting. The result? Severe pain, massive swelling, and tissue that can start to die if treatment is delayed. Victims often report the swelling creeping up the limb, turning the skin dark and tight. Blistering can occur, and in the worst cases, untreated bites can lead to muscle necrosis, tissue literally rotting away, and even amputations. Systemically, the venom can cause nausea, dizziness, low blood pressure, and internal bleeding. Without antivenom, an eastern diamondback bite can be fatal. But here's the thing. Eastern diamondbacks don't want to bite you. They're generally shy and will warn you first with that famous rattle, which sounds like a buzzing insect but much louder. That's your signal to back off. Most bites happen when someone ignores the warning, steps too close, or accidentally puts a hand or foot near a snake they didn't see. Eastern diamondbacks are found in the southeastern United States, especially in pine forests, palmetto flatwoods, and coastal scrublands. They play an ecological role by controlling rodent populations, but they're often killed on sight out of fear. Unfortunately, this has made them increasingly rare in some areas. The good news is that modern antivenom is very effective if administered quickly. Doctors also use supportive treatments like pain management and wound care to limit the long-term damage. Still, even survivors can spend days in the hospital and weeks recovering, and some are left with permanent scars or reduced function in the affected limb. So if you're hiking in rattlesnake country and hear that distinctive buzz, take it seriously. Stop, locate the snake, and back away slowly. Because while this snake would rather avoid you, its bite can turn an afternoon walk into a months-long ordeal.
Mojave Rattlesnake. If the eastern diamondback is the heavyweight of rattlesnakes, the Mojave rattlesnake is the sneaky assassin. Found in the deserts of the southwestern United States and northern Mexico, this snake looks a lot like other rattlers, dusty-colored, diamond-patterned, with that famous tail rattle, but its venom has a sinister twist. It doesn't just destroy tissue like most pit vipers. The Mojave Rattlesnake's venom is a mix of hemotoxins and neurotoxins, which means it can attack your body in 2 ways at once. A bite from a Mojave rattlesnake can feel like a sharp, stabbing puncture, followed quickly by a burning pain that spreads through the limb. Like other rattlesnakes, there's swelling and tenderness, but here's where it gets extra nasty. The neurotoxic component starts working on your nervous system. Victims can experience muscle weakness, vision problems, difficulty breathing, and in severe cases, paralysis. It's a combination that makes this rattlesnake one of the most medically significant in North America. What makes this even more dangerous is how fast the venom acts. While some rattlesnake bites take hours to fully kick in, Mojave venom can start producing systemic symptoms within 30 minutes. Without treatment, the neurotoxic effects can lead to respiratory failure, not just a painful leg or arm, but your whole body shutting down. The pain is bad enough on its own. Victims describe it as an intense, radiating burn that doesn't let up, paired with a kind of heaviness in the limb, as if the muscles are starting to shut down. And even with treatment, the recovery can take weeks, with lingering pain and weakness as the nerves heal. The Mojave rattlesnake is usually not aggressive if left alone, and like other rattlers, it will give you that distinctive buzzing warning with its tail before striking. But it's quick, accurate, and capable of delivering a large dose of venom if it decides you're a threat. That's why herpetologists often rank it among the most dangerous rattlesnakes in the U.S. The good news is that antivenom is available and highly effective, especially if given quickly. Hotlines and poison control centers in rattlesnake territory are well versed in handling Mojave bites because of how serious they can be. If you ever get bitten in the desert, the advice is the same. Stay calm, immobilize the limb, and get to a hospital as fast as possible. So while the Mojave rattlesnake might not be the biggest rattler out there, it's arguably the most dangerous. It's a reminder that sometimes the most unassuming desert snakes can deliver a bite that feels like fire and then slowly shuts your body down.
Puff adder. If there's one snake that perfectly embodies "don't mess with me," it's the puff adder. This chunky, slow-moving viper is found all over Africa, and it's responsible for more snakebite fatalities on the continent than any other species, not because it's the most venomous, but because it's everywhere and really, really good at blending in. The puff adder's bite is one you won't forget. Victims describe a sharp puncture, followed almost immediately by an intense, burning pain that radiates up the limb. Within minutes, the swelling starts, and it doesn't stop. The affected limb can double or even triple in size, becoming hot, red, and tight as the venom spreads. This is because puff adder venom is a potent hemotoxin that destroys tissue, blood vessels, and red blood cells, causing massive local damage. The swelling isn't just painful, it's dangerous. The pressure can get so bad that it cuts off circulation, risking permanent damage to muscles and nerves. Doctors sometimes have to perform emergency procedures to relieve the pressure and save the limb. In untreated cases, tissue necrosis can set in, leading to gangrene and sometimes amputation. Systemically, puff adder venom can cause dizziness, vomiting, low blood pressure, and widespread bleeding under the skin. Fatalities usually happen when the venom dose is large and treatment is delayed. But even when people survive, the recovery can be brutal. Weeks or months of wound care, physiotherapy, and dealing with permanent scarring. What makes the puff adder particularly dangerous is its behavior. Unlike some snakes that flee when they see humans, puff adders tend to freeze and rely on their camouflage. Their earth-toned zigzag pattern make them almost invisible in dry grass or leaf litter. As a result, most bites happen because someone accidentally steps on one, and when puff adders strike, they strike fast, one of the fastest strikes of any snake in the world, and they hang on, delivering a massive dose of venom. The good news is that anti-venom is available in most parts of Africa where puff adders live, and when given promptly, it can save lives and reduce the need for amputations. But time is critical. The sooner the swelling and tissue destruction are brought under control, the better the outcome. So if you're walking through the African bush and see a fat, zigzag-patterned snake that isn't moving, take a big step back, because this is one snake that doesn't bluff, and its bite can turn a casual stroll into a months-long recovery story.
Platypus Spur. When you think of venomous animals, you probably picture snakes, spiders, and scorpions, not the goofy duck-billed platypus. But here's a fun twist. Male platypuses are actually venomous, and their venom is no joke. In fact, it delivers one of the most excruciating pains in the animal kingdom, the kind of pain that can last for months. Here's how it works. Male platypuses have sharp spurs on their back legs, and during the breeding season, they use these spurs to inject venom when fighting rivals or defending themselves. The venom isn't designed to kill. It's designed to incapacitate with pain so intense that the opponent can't keep fighting. Humans unlucky enough to get spurred describe the pain as immediate, searing, and completely overwhelming. Some victims say it's worse than any broken bone or burn they've ever had. And the pain doesn't just fade after a few minutes. It can last for hours, days, or even weeks. And in some cases, it lingers as a hypersensitivity to pain that can go on for months. People have reported that even light touches or changes in temperature around the wound can feel unbearable long after the initial injury. What's fascinating is that platypus venom doesn't cause much visible damage. There's swelling and tenderness, but no tissue death or scarring like with snake or spider bites. It's almost as if the venom's only job is to make sure you suffer as much as possible. Scientists have studied the venom and found that it contains a unique mix of peptides that attack pain receptors directly, which explains why normal painkillers like morphine don't do much to help. Luckily, platypus attacks on humans are very rare. These animals are shy and spend most of their time minding their own business in rivers and streams in Australia. Most cases of people getting spurred happen when someone tries to pick one up or accidentally corners one. But it's enough of a risk that wildlife handlers who work with platypuses take special precautions during the breeding season to avoid getting jabbed. And here's a weird bonus fact. This is one of the only known venoms from a mammal that can cause this level of pain. Most mammals that are venomous, like shrews or solanodons, are much less dangerous to humans. The platypus is in a class of its own, reminding us that even the strangest, cutest animals can pack a serious punch. So if you ever find yourself lucky enough to spot a wild platypus, enjoy the moment from a safe distance. Because as adorable as they look, those back legs are hiding a weapon capable of giving you a pain you'll never forget.
You wouldn't think a tiny, twitchy little shrew could make it onto a list of the world's most painful venoms, but it totally earns its spot. Shrews may look like harmless little mouse relatives, but these tiny mammals are actually venomous. That's right, they drool toxic saliva. And while they're not going to take you down like a snake or spider might, their bite can pack a surprisingly nasty punch. Shrews have grooved teeth, kind of like nature's own hypodermic needles that let their saliva flow in to whatever they're biting. Their venom contains compounds that paralyze or kill small prey like insects, worms, and even frogs. For a human, the venom dose is tiny, but it can still cause a painful burning sensation at the bite site. People who have been bitten describe it as sharp at first, followed by throbbing or stinging pain that can last for hours. The bite can also cause redness, swelling, and in some cases, numbness or tingling that spreads from the wound. It's not medically dangerous for most people, but it's unpleasant enough that you'll definitely know you've been bitten by something special. Imagine being nipped by something the size of your thumb and then having your finger ache for half the day. That's the shrew experience. The reason shrews are venomous is actually pretty fascinating. They have incredibly fast metabolisms and need to eat almost constantly just to stay alive. Their venom helps them subdue prey quickly, letting them stockpile paralyzed insects and worms to snack on later. Yes, shrews basically keep a little fridge of still-living food items, which is both efficient and a little creepy. Most human bites happen when someone tries to handle a shrew or accidentally corners one in a house or garden. Because they're so small and fast, people sometimes try to pick them up, thinking they're helping, only to get a quick venomous nip for their trouble. They're not aggressive toward humans. They're just stressed out and defending themselves. And here's a fun science fact. Shrew venom is being studied for potential medical uses because some of the compounds in their saliva can lower blood pressure and block pain in unique ways. So one day this tiny mammal's spit might inspire new drugs. At the end of the day, a shrew bite won't send you to the hospital, but it will give you an annoying, burning reminder that even the smallest creatures sometimes come with built-in weapons. So if you see one zipping around your yard, admire it from a distance and let it keep hunting bugs in peace.
Solenodon. If you've never heard of a solenodon, you're not alone. Most people haven't. This strange little mammal looks like a stretched-out shrew with a long, flexible snout and spindly legs, and it's found only in the Caribbean, Hispaniola, and Cuba. And yes, like shrews, solenodons are venomous, making them one of the very few mammals on Earth capable of delivering a venomous bite. The Solenodon's venom delivery system is actually pretty clever. It has grooves in its lower incisors that act like little channels, letting venomous saliva flow down into the wound as it bites. When it latches on to prey, usually insects, worms, or small reptiles, it chews, pumping the venom in. The result? Rapid paralysis that keeps the prey from getting away while the Solenodon enjoys its meal. For humans, a Solenodon bite is not usually fatal, but it is definitely unpleasant. People who have been bitten report a sharp, piercing pain followed by swelling, numbness, and a deep, throbbing ache that can last for hours. In some cases, the venom can cause weakness or temporary loss of sensation around the bite area. And because Solenodons have strong jaws, the bite itself can be quite damaging even before the venom kicks in. Solenodons are also incredibly rare and nocturnal, which means human encounters are uncommon, but that also makes them fascinating. For decades, scientists thought Solenodons might actually be extinct until populations were rediscovered in the 20th century. Today, they're considered living fossils, having changed very little since the time of the dinosaurs. Yes, this odd little venomous mammal has been shuffling around in roughly the same form for over 70 million years. Unlike snakes or spiders, the Solenodon's venom isn't meant to kill quickly. It's more of a prey stunning tool. But for humans, it's enough to leave you with a painful and memorable encounter if you're unlucky enough to pick one up. Wildlife researchers who study Solenodons take extreme care when handling them, wearing thick gloves and using special traps to avoid being bitten. Because they're endangered, conservationists are working hard to protect Solenodons and their habitats from deforestation and invasive predators like cats and dogs. They're a key part of their ecosystem. Controlling insect populations and losing them would mean losing one of the world's rarest and most unique venomous creatures. So if you ever find yourself in the Dominican Republic or Cuba and happen to spot a Solenodon scurrying around at night, consider yourself lucky. You've just seen one of the most elusive mammals on Earth. Just don't try to pick it up. That adorable long-nosed face comes with a bite that will leave you sore and swearing for hours.
Giant centipede. If there's one creature that seems designed specifically to give you the shivers, it's the giant centipede. These multi-legged nightmares can grow up to a foot long in some parts of the world, and yes, they bite hard. Those big curved fangs at the front of their heads aren't just for show. They're modified legs called forciples, and they inject venom that has been described as one of the most painful things a human can experience. The pain starts instantly. Victims say it feels like being stabbed with red-hot needles, followed by an intense burning sensation that spreads out from the bite. Some compare it to having molten metal poured into the wound, a searing, relentless agony that can last for hours. The bitten area usually swells, turns red, and can become so tender that even touching the skin lightly makes it worse. But the effects aren't just local. Centipede venom contains a cocktail of toxins that attack the nervous system and cause severe inflammation. Victims can experience nausea, headaches, sweating, rapid heartbeat, and even muscle spasms. In some cases, the pain radiates up the limb, making it difficult to move. The sheer intensity of the pain has sent grown adults to the ER just for relief. The giant centipede most people think of is Scolopendra gigantea, found in Central and South America, but there are other large species across Asia and the Pacific Islands. They're fast, aggressive hunters that can take down prey much larger than themselves, including small birds, frogs, and even mice, by injecting venom that quickly incapacitates their victim. What makes these bites so memorable is that there's no quick cure. Painkillers help a bit, but you mostly just have to ride it out. Hot water immersion sometimes provides relief, since heat can denature some of the venom's proteins, but the pain usually takes its sweet time fading. Some victims report that the bite site continues to ache or itch for days afterward. And here's a creepy little detail. Giant centipedes can climb walls and ceilings, which means they can show up in some very surprising places. People have been bitten while sleeping when a centipede crawled across them, which might be the worst alarm clock imaginable. The good news is that centipede venom is almost never fatal to healthy adults. It's designed to kill insects and small animals, not people. But that doesn't make the experience any less miserable. It's one of those bites that people say they wouldn't wish on their worst enemy. So if you ever come across a giant centipede, give it plenty of space. It's not trying to hunt you down. But if it feels threatened, it can deliver a bite that will leave you dancing around in pain like your foot is literally on fire.
Vinegaroon. The vinegaroon, also known as the whip scorpion, looks like something straight out of a sci-fi horror movie. It's big, black, and armed with massive pincers, a whip-like tail, and a face that could scare you even if it was just sitting still. The good news? It doesn't have venom like true scorpions. The bad news? It has something else, an acid weapon that it can spray right at you, and it burns. When threatened, a vinegaroon lifts its tail and sprays a mist of concentrated acetic acid. Yes, basically vinegar mixed with other chemicals. That's where it gets its name. The spray is aimed at predators' faces and can reach several inches away, hitting eyes, nose, and mouth. If it lands on your skin, it causes a sharp, stinging burn that can last for several minutes. If it gets in your eyes, it hurts even worse, like a shot of acid straight to the cornea. People who have been sprayed describe the pain as instant, prickly, and burning, almost like being hit with pepper spray. The area can turn red and stay irritated for hours. In sensitive areas like the face, the pain can make your eyes water and your nose run uncontrollably. Basically, it's the whip scorpion's way of saying, back off, and it works. What makes vinegaroons fascinating is how harmless they actually are, despite their terrifying looks. They don't sting, they don't bite humans unless handled roughly, and their spray, while painful, isn't dangerous for most people. It's just extremely unpleasant.
After the initial burning fades, there's usually no lasting damage beyond some redness or tenderness. Vinegaroons are found in the southern United States, Mexico, and parts of Central America, living in burrows and coming out at night to hunt insects, spiders, and even small frogs. They're actually considered beneficial because they control pests, but their appearance makes most people scream first and appreciate them later. Some people even keep vinegaroons as pets because of how cool and prehistoric they look. But handling them carelessly can still earn you a faceful of acid. It's kind of like keeping a tiny chemical-wielding dragon. You respect its personal space or you pay the price. So while a vinegaroon won't kill you or melt your skin, it will give you a painful, memorable encounter if you mess with it. Think of it as nature's grumpy little enforcer. All it wants to be left alone to go about its bug-hunting business. And if you don't give it that space, well, get ready for the vinegar facial you didn't ask for.